The first thing I noticed was that the dust had edges. Pale rectangles marked the wall where Dad's clamps had hung. A clean strip ran across the floor where his table saw had stood. Even the coffee can full of bent nails was gone, which meant whoever cleaned out the workshop hadn't borrowed anything. They had emptied it. My mother appeared in the doorway carrying a basket of towels. "Oh," she said, "you came early." I opened the cabinet beneath Dad's sharpening bench. Empty. Then the drawer where he kept the block plane with T. Mercer engraved crookedly along one side. Empty. Where are my tools? Mom shifted the basket against her hip. Ryan needed them. For what? He has his first order. I turned around. That wasn't my question. He sold some things, Laurel. Not all of it, I'm sure. There had been close to 40 years of equipment in that room. The only thing left on the pegboard was a tiny brass hook and a pencil sharpened down to the length of my thumb. Mom's mouth tightened. "Please don't get greedy about this. Your brother is finally trying." That was the moment I understood she had known before I walked in. What I didn't understand was why she'd left the light on. I set my keys on Dad's bench because my hand had started shaking. The bench was too heavy for Ryan to move alone. I knew that before I checked the vise and found it still attached. He had taken the things that could become money and left the thing that required 4 strong backs and a plan. "When?" I asked. Mom looked toward the house. "I don't know exactly. You know exactly enough to have an answer ready. I am not having a fight in the garage. Workshop." "What?" Dad called it the workshop. She gave me the look she usually saved for customer service representatives who refused to accept expired coupons. "Fine, I'm not having a fight in the workshop." I walked to the tall cabinet where Dad had kept his hand tools. Ryan had left the doors open. Inside, pencil labels were still taped beneath each empty shelf. Smoothing planes, shoulder plane, mortise chisels, marking. The handwriting changed halfway down from Dad's square block letters to mine. I ran a finger over the label for the chisels. "Did you let him in?" "It's my garage, Laurel. Workshop, your father is dead." The sentence landed between us with a bluntness that surprised both of us. Mom's face changed first. She lowered the basket onto the floor, and one towel slid over the side like it was trying to escape. "I didn't mean it like that. There aren't a lot of ways to mean it. I meant this house is mine now. I'm allowed to make decisions. About the house. Not about my things." She folded her arms. "Those tools have been sitting out here for 6 months. I'm here every Sunday. To oil them, to stare at them. I use them. You made one little box. It was a tea chest, and you asked me to make it. Well, I didn't know it was going to turn into a federal case. That was my mother's favorite expression for any conflict that lasted longer than her comfort. A federal case could be a dispute over pie crust, a leaking water heater, or Dad objecting when she threw away the screws he had sorted into baby food jars in 1998. If helicopters were not circling the house, everyone was overreacting. I pulled out my phone and called Ryan. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. "Hey, it's Ryan. I'm probably making sawdust or making a deal, so leave me something good." I hung up before the beep. Mom busied herself lifting the towel back into the basket. "He's busy. Making sawdust with what?" There's no need to be sarcastic. That wasn't sarcasm. Sarcasm would be asking whether he whittled the tables with Dad's watch. Her eyes snapped to mine. "Leave the watch out of this." Of course. The watch was sacred because it belonged to Ryan. Dad had made the decision during one of his clear afternoons in hospice. Though he'd refused to call it hospice, he called it the place with terrible soup. Mom, Ryan, and I were all in the living room. Dad had oxygen under his nose and a legal pad on his lap, even though the paper was blank. "Donna gets the house," he'd said. "Ryan gets the truck and my Hamilton. Laurel gets the shop." "The whole building?" Ryan had asked. Dad looked at him over his glasses. "You planning to tow it somewhere?" Ryan grinned. He could take a correction and turn it into charm before it bruised him. "The tools," Dad clarified. "All of them. Bench, too, when she's got somewhere to put it." I had started to object because that was my reflex. The truck was worth real money. The watch had been Grandpa Mercer's. Taking the tools felt like accepting something too large to carry. Dad cut me off. They should go to the person who knows what they are. Mom had squeezed my shoulder. Ryan had said, obviously. Obviously had lasted 6 months. I opened the bottom cabinet. Dad's old canvas apron was still there, crumpled behind a bottle of glue. Ryan had missed it because it looked worthless. I lifted it out and found the pencil Dad always kept in the chest pocket, along with 3 brass screws and a peppermint fused to its wrapper. Mom watched me press the apron against my stomach. "He's going to replace everything," she said more softly. "With what?" "With the money from this contract." "What contract?" "I don't know the details." "Then how do you know it'll replace everything?" "Because he told me." I laughed once. It came out ugly. "Laurel, Ryan also told you his food truck would pay back the $12,000 you lent him. That was completely different. It didn't have food in it? The permits were a nightmare. The permit to serve food from a truck came as a surprise? He was misled. Ryan is 34. 33. That really changes the math." Mom picked up the basket again. I made chicken salad. "Come inside and eat something before you work yourself into a state." The invitation was so normal that for 1 second I nearly followed her. That was how things worked in our family. Something sharp happened, then Mom offered mayonnaise as anesthesia. "I'm not hungry. You didn't eat breakfast. You don't know that. You always skip breakfast on Sundays because you stop for that awful gas station coffee." I looked at the paper cup on Dad's bench. She did know me. That was part of what made it hurt. My mother could identify my coffee by the color of the lid, but she apparently could not identify a table saw as something she had promised not to give away. What did Ryan get for them? She stepped over the threshold into the yard. "You need to ask him. You saw people carrying them out. I was at book club. So he did it while you were gone? He arranged the pickup for then because he knew I'd get emotional. You mean because he knew you might stop him?" "No, because that shop was your father's whole life. And now?" She looked back at the empty wall. "Now it can help Ryan start his." I stared at her. She seemed to believe that was beautiful. My phone rang. Ryan's name filled the screen, along with a photograph of him wearing sunglasses on top of his head and smiling beside Dad's truck. He had sent me the photo 2 weeks after the funeral with the message, "Cleaned up nice, right?" I'd saved it as his contact picture because I was trying to be a person who didn't resent a truck. I answered, "Where are the tools?" No hello. No room for charm. There was a pause, then background noise. Men talking, something metallic dropping, a radio playing classic rock. "Mom called you already? I'm standing in the workshop." "Okay." I was going to explain. "When?" "Tonight, actually." "What's tonight?" "Dinner." "Dinner was your plan?" "You're making it sound stupid." "I don't have to make it sound like anything." He exhaled hard. Look, the equipment wasn't being used at production scale. For a moment, I genuinely couldn't speak. "Production scale," I repeated. I had an opportunity, a real one. Not birdhouses at craft fairs. I don't make birdhouses. I know. It was an example. An example of something you think I do. You know what I mean? I looked at Dad's bench, its surface pocked with awl marks and dark circles from coffee cups. "How much did you get?" "Enough to get moving." "How much?" "I don't have the breakdown in front of me." "You sold 40 years of Dad's tools and didn't get a receipt?" "Obviously, I got paperwork." "Then send it." "I'm in the middle of something." "What are you in the middle of?" Another pause. I could hear a forklift beeping in reverse. "I'm at the lumber supplier, buying what?" "Walnut. For your first order." Mom had come closer. She stood just outside the doorway listening with her lips pressed together. Ryan's voice warmed, as if we had finally reached the part of the conversation he had rehearsed. "It's a huge break, Laurel. 18 conference tables, 6 credenzas, and possibly phase 2 if they like the first run. The client's opening a regional office at the old Wade Mill. This isn't some random Facebook buyer. It could put us on the map. Us, Mercer's son? I looked at Mom. She studied a hydrangea bush that had not bloomed in 3 years. Dad doesn't have a son in the business, I said. I'm his son. You've never built a table. I grew up in that shop. You hid in that shop twice when Mom wanted you to rake leaves. I don't need the cheap shots. No, you need my tools. I needed capital. There's a difference. They weren't yours to turn into capital. His tone changed. The friendliness went flat. They were sitting in Mom's garage. Because Mom promised they could stay here until I had space. Well, they're helping the family now. I closed my eyes. There it was. Family. The magic word that meant an object could belong to me right up until Ryan wanted it. Time could be mine until Mom needed a ride. Money could be mine until somebody had an emergency with a logo. Who bought them? I'll send you the guy's information. Now. Tonight. Now, Ryan. I said I'm in the middle of something. I heard a man in the background call, Mercer, you approving these boards or not? Ryan covered the phone, but not well enough. Yeah, give me a second. Then he came back. I have to go. Please don't upset Mom. I looked at Mom, who was still holding the laundry like she had wandered into the wrong play and couldn't find the exit. You sold my inheritance, and your concern is that I might upset Mom? I'm going to make it right. You already had a chance to make it right. It was the chance where you didn't sell them. Laurel, I've got a deadline, so do I. For what? To find my tools before strangers take them apart. He started saying my name, but I hung up. Mom flinched at the tap of my thumb against the screen. You didn't have to be cruel. I tucked Dad's apron under my arm. Do you have the reseller's name? No. Did you see a truck? I told you I was at book club. Was Ryan here when you left? She didn't answer. That was an answer. I walked past her toward the house. Dad's workshop key was still on my ring, though the lock had apparently become decorative. In the kitchen, the chicken salad sat beneath plastic wrap beside a bowl of croissants. Mom had set the table for 3. Ryan's place had a yellow legal pad beside the plate. What is that? I asked. Mom came in behind me and set the towels on a chair. I don't know. I flipped the pad over. Across the top, in Ryan's handwriting, were the words, Production Timeline. Below that, 10 weeks had been divided into cutting, milling, joinery, assembly, and finish. Most of the tasks had one name written beside them. Mine. Mom reached for the pad, but I moved it out of her reach. He was going to ask, she said. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. For one hopeful second, I thought it would be the reseller's information. Instead, it was a link. Mercer's son had a website now. The homepage showed Dad's hands wrapped around a chisel. Beneath them, in elegant white letters, it said, Built on tradition, made for what comes next. I scrolled. There was the walnut record cabinet I had finished while Dad coached me from a stool. There was the maple dining table I built for Mom's 50th birthday. There was my tea chest, photographed on the workbench that now stood empty. Ryan had labeled the page, Our Work. At the bottom was a photograph of him leaning against Dad's truck, smiling like a man who knew exactly where he was going. His message beneath the link said, See, this can be good for both of us. I stared at the message until the words stopped looking like English. See, this can be good for both of us. Did you know he used these pictures? I asked. Mom leaned over my shoulder. Her cheek nearly touched mine, the way it used to when we looked at recipes on her phone. Oh, that's nice. That's my cabinet. It's beautiful. He says he made it. It says, Our Work. Who is our? She straightened. You're determined to see the worst possible version of this. I'm reading the version he published. I scrolled back to Dad's hands. I recognized the brown sweater under his apron. I had taken that photograph on a Tuesday afternoon when he was showing me how to pare a tenon shoulder without bruising the grain. His thumbnail was split. The oxygen tube was visible if you knew to look for the blur at his wrist. Ryan had cropped out the tube. Where did he get this? You sent us pictures all the time. To the family group chat. And he's family. I took screenshots of every page before he could change them. The production timeline remained on the table beside the croissants, my name written 16 times in blue ink. Mom had put a small vase of grocery store daisies in the center, as if Ryan planned to steal my labor in a breakfast nook from a catalog. "Call him," I said. "You just spoke to him. Call him and tell him dinner is canceled." She touched the edge of the legal pad. "He bought steaks. Then you two can celebrate. Laurel, please. Sit down. Let's talk when everybody's calm. I am calm. You're holding your father's apron like you're about to strangle someone with it." I looked down. I had twisted one of the canvas ties around my fist. Mom softened. "Honey, he really does want you involved. Involved is when somebody asks me before they sell my property and schedule my evenings. He was afraid you'd say no before you understood the opportunity. That's called saying no. It's called being cautious, sometimes too cautious." There was an old family story about how, when I was 9, I refused to jump off a dock because the water looked shallow. Ryan jumped, hit his knee on a submerged rock, and spent 6 weeks on crutches. Mom still told the story as proof that he was adventurous, and I worried too much. I laid Dad's apron across the back of a chair. "I want the reseller's name by 5, and if Ryan doesn't give it to you, then I'll go to his lumber supplier and ask him in person. You don't even know where that is." I heard the forklift. There are 4 hardwood suppliers within an hour, and Ryan has never driven farther than necessary in his life. A corner of Mom's mouth moved. She nearly smiled. It vanished so quickly I could have imagined it. "You get that from your father," she said. "What?" "That way of being funny when you're furious." For half a second, I wanted to sit down. I wanted chicken salad and a croissant and my mother telling me I was like Dad. Then she picked up the legal pad and squared it with Ryan's placemat, protecting his plan from the moisture ring left by my coffee. I took my apron and left. Ryan sent the reseller's information at 4:47. North County Tool and Machine occupied an old auto parts warehouse behind a tire shop, 40 minutes from the hospital where I worked. I called 3 times before a man named Cal Berman answered with a distracted, "Yep." I introduced myself and told him about the Mercer workshop. "The estate lot," he said. It wasn't an estate lot. Paper rustled on his end. That's how it came in. My brother sold it. The tools belonged to me. There was a silence followed by the scrape of a chair. "You have a dispute with your brother. You need to take it up with him. I'm trying to find out what you still have. Ms. Mercer, I'm not accusing you of anything. I need to know what's left." He sighed through his nose. "You got an invoice number?" Ryan had sent me a photograph of the receipt with his thumb covering the total. I read the number aloud. More paper, computer keys, then a low whistle that made my stomach drop. What? It was a good lot, I know. Powermatic 66, Delta lathe, old Parks planer, cabinet full of hand tools, lot of clamps. I know what was in it. Right. Sorry. What's left? Not a phone conversation. Why? Because I'm looking at inventory codes, and you're going to hear "not here" as "gone forever." That may not be the case. Some items went through consignment, some went direct, some are listed but not released. When can I come? He hesitated. We close at 5. I get off at 4:30. Tomorrow, then. I'm 40 minutes away. We close at 5. I can make it in 27. That's not a legal driving speed. It is if all the lights are green. Cal grunted. It might have been a laugh. I'll be here until 5:30. At 4:28 the next afternoon, I handed my radio to Denise at the facilities desk and told her I had to leave on time. She looked at me over red-framed glasses. "You've left on time twice since I met you. Once for a colonoscopy and once because the building was on fire. The fire alarm was malfunctioning. The smoke was pretty convincing. If plumbing calls, tell them I'll check the pressure issue in the morning." Denise studied my face. "Is your mom okay?" The question irritated me because it was reasonable. For 3 years, leaving work unexpectedly had meant Dad fell. Dad's oxygen machine was making a noise. Mom couldn't find the insurance card. Ryan was unavailable. She's fine. Then go. I reached North County at 5:16. The front showroom smelled like machine oil, sawdust, and the rubber mats people put beneath exercise equipment. Bench grinders lined one wall. Metal shelves held drills, sanders, and toolboxes tagged with white cards. Cal was in his 60s, with a gray beard cut close and half-moon glasses hanging from a cord. He looked at my hospital badge, then at me. "You speed?" "All green lights." Liar. He led me through a chain-link gate into the warehouse. Machines sat in rows with enough space between them for a pallet jack. I spotted a Powermatic cabinet saw and walked toward it before I saw the fence. Dad's fence had a crescent-shaped nick where Ryan dropped a hammer on it when he was 19. This one was smooth. "Yours shipped Monday," Cal said. "Where?" "Commercial buyer in Tennessee. Can you call them? I can ask if they'll speak to you." That's all. He said it without false sympathy, which I appreciated more than I wanted to. The planer went to Pennsylvania. Lathe went local, but it's already been delivered. Drill press is still here. I followed him to the back. Dad's drill press stood beside a floor fan, its cord wrapped neatly around the table. Somebody had peeled off the strip of masking tape where Dad had written, "Chuck Key is not a hammer." I touched the feed handle. "That one's listed," Cal said. "Buyer paid a deposit." "How much?" He named a price nearly double what Ryan had received for it. "That's not what you paid." "No. You see the problem." "I see several problems. Most of them walked in before you did." He wasn't rude. That made it worse. On a rolling cart near his desk sat 3 cardboard boxes marked Mercer Hand. Cal cut the tape on the first. Inside were molding planes wrapped in newspaper, their wooden bodies dark with age. None belonged to Dad. The second held braces and auger bits I recognized. The third contained the small oak chest Dad used for layout tools. I lifted the lid. His combination square, marking gauges, dividers, bevel gauge, and 6-inch rule were nested in green felt. He had made the chest before I was born. My name was written beneath the removable tray in pencil because I took it to a night class 7 years earlier, and he was afraid somebody would walk off with it. "That was supposed to ship tomorrow," Cal said. "I want it." He adjusted his glasses. "It's already sold." "To who?" "Online customer." "Call them." "I can't just hand out customer information." "Then call them." Cal looked at the pencil marks under the tray. "Let me make a call." While he went into the office, I opened the other boxes. Dad's bench chisels were gone. His mortise chisels were gone. So were the carving tools and his wooden mallet. I found a jar of brass screws and almost laughed. Ryan had sold the screws but missed the ones in Dad's apron. On a shelf behind the cart, the engraved block plane sat beneath a tag. "Not released," Cal called from the office. That one was going into the online auction. I picked it up. The iron needed sharpening. Dad would have said it needed sharpening if it could split a hair lengthwise. Cal returned. "The chest buyer will release it. He wants his shipping refunded." "Fine. The plane hasn't sold. I'll take both." He named a total that swallowed most of what I had saved for the deposit on a cooperative workshop bay. "That's what they're worth," he said quietly. "They were worth more yesterday? They were worth less in a bulk lot sold by somebody who wanted money fast." I set the plane down with care. "What did my brother tell you?" Cal rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Said his mother was clearing the property after his father died. Said neither sibling had an interest in woodworking. Neither sibling. He said his sister worked at a hospital and didn't have room. That detail hurt differently. It meant Ryan had not forgotten me. He had used the truth like packing material around the lie. "Did my mother speak to you?" "No. Your brother had access. He knew the equipment. He had the keys. I paid for the chest and the plane. Cal promised to contact the local lathe buyer and whoever had bought the carving tools. He wrote the drill press buyer's name on a sticky note, then crossed it out before I could read it. "I'll ask," he said. "No promises." When I carried the chest into my apartment that evening, Ryan was sitting on the floor outside my door. He stood and brushed off his pants. "You went to Cal." I unlocked the door without answering. "I could have gotten those back for you after the contract paid. You told Cal I had no interest in woodworking. I told him what I had to tell him to move the lot. I set the chest inside and turned. Why are you here?" Ryan held up a paper bag. peace offering. Inside was a walnut sample board and 2 steak sandwiches from Mom's favorite place. He smiled carefully. I need you to come look at the lumber tomorrow. No, you haven't even seen it. I don't need to see it. The supplier says some boards have sapwood. I think we can work around it, but the client wants consistent color. We? His smile thinned. You're really going to make me beg? I'm going to make you remove my work from your website. I can't do that. Why? Because the client hired me based on that portfolio. I waited for him to hear himself. He didn't. Instead, he glanced at the oak chest inside my apartment. I'm offering you 20%. Of what? The company. You sold my tools, used my work to win an order, and assigned me 10 weeks of labor. Now you're offering me 1/5 of the thing you built out of all 3. It's the best I can do. No, Ryan, it's the best you think I'll accept. His jaw moved. If you don't help fill this order, there won't be money to replace anything. I closed my hand around the doorknob. Then I guess you'd better learn how to build a table. Ryan put his hand against the door before I could close it. Not hard, just enough to make me stop. Dad would have helped me. I looked at his fingers on the edge of my door. They were clean except for a green swipe from the lumberyard's inspection chalk. Dad would have asked what you knew how to do before putting his name on a website. He spent his whole life trying to teach me. He spent 3 Saturdays trying to teach you how to sharpen a chisel. You used the stone as a coaster. I was 19, you were 27. That can't be right. It was the summer he replaced Mom's kitchen cabinets. Ryan frowned, doing the math. Okay, but I was going through a lot then. You were dating 2 women named Kelly. They knew about each other. They met at Dad's birthday. That was unfortunate. Despite myself, I felt the beginning of a laugh push against my ribs. Ryan saw it. He always did. His face relaxed, and suddenly we were standing in the shallow end of the argument where everything could become a funny story if I let him keep talking. He lifted the paper bag. The sandwiches are getting cold. Take your hand off my door. The relaxation disappeared. He lowered his hand. I'm not asking you to do all the work. Your production timeline disagrees. Mom showed you that. It was sitting beside my plate. That was a draft. My name was on it 16 times. You counted? I count things. That's why the shelves stay level. He looked past me at the chest on the floor. 25%. No, come on, you're negotiating with something I don't want. I'm offering you a piece of Dad's legacy. You sold Dad's legacy to North County Tool and Machine. His nostrils flared. You know, this is why I didn't tell you beforehand. You kill everything before it gets a chance. No. I ask how it's supposed to work. Same thing, sometimes. I closed the door. This time he let me. The steak sandwiches stayed in the hallway. I watched through the peephole as Ryan stood there for almost a full minute, looking down at the bag. Finally, he picked it up and walked away. Inside, I put Dad's block plane on my kitchen table and took the oak chest into the living room. My apartment was 1,100 square feet on paper, and about 400 once you accounted for the books, the secondhand dining set, and the narrow hall closet that had never met an object it didn't reject. I lifted out each measuring tool and laid it on a dish towel. Combination square, dividers, sliding bevel, 2 marking gauges, 1 ebony, and 1 beech. A brass depth gauge Dad bought at an estate sale and complained about for 20 years because the adjustment screw was designed by a vindictive person. The 6-inch rule still had a dark smear near the 2-inch mark, walnut stain from the record cabinet. I rubbed it with my thumb. My phone buzzed 3 times on the table. Ryan, then Mom, then Ryan again. I turned it face down. The next morning, a 3-inch water line began leaking above imaging before I finished my first coffee. By 8:15, 2 plumbers had the ceiling open, Denise had redirected foot traffic, and a radiology supervisor named Gwen was demanding to know why we hadn't repaired the pipe before it leaked. Because before it leaked, it was a pipe, I told her. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. The reassuring part is that we've isolated the branch, and your department still has water. Will this happen again? Eventually, everything happens again. Denise coughed into her fist to hide a laugh. Gwen did not laugh. I need a timeline. 45 minutes to replace the section. Another hour to dry the ceiling cavity. Longer if you keep one of my plumbers here answering questions. Gwen left. Denise handed me a roll of caution tape. You are a warm and comforting leader. I'm thinking of putting it on my business cards. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Ryan had sent 6 photographs of walnut boards laid across metal racks. Too much sapwood? His message read. Then, supplier says it's normal. Then, Dad usually bought FAS, right? I locked the screen. Denise watched me stretch caution tape between 2 stanchions. Is that your brother? How do you know? You make a specific face. What face? Like you're trying to remove a bra wire without taking off the bra. That's disturbingly accurate. Everything okay? I tore the tape with my teeth. He sold Dad's woodworking tools. Denise stopped smiling. She had met Dad twice when he came to the hospital for scans. The second time, he repaired the loose arm on her waiting room chair with a multi-tool while wearing a gown under his coat. All of them? Close. What did your mother say? That I'm greedy. Of course she did. I looked at her. Denise shrugged. Your mother once called here because you didn't answer while you were inside an air handler. She thought I'd fallen. She asked me to have you call Ryan and remind him to renew his car insurance. The plumber above us shouted that he needed the valve opened slowly. I keyed my radio. Miguel, crack valve B3, quarter turn only. My phone vibrated again. I handed it to Denise. Put that somewhere I can't see it. She slid it into the chest pocket of her scrubs. I've always wanted a work phone. It's mostly boiler alarms and emotional blackmail, better than radiology. At lunch, Cal called. I reached the lathe buyer, he said. He's not interested in selling. Did you tell him where it came from? I told him there was an ownership dispute. It's not a dispute. To him, it is. I pushed half my sandwich away. What about the carving tools? The buyer gave me permission to pass along his number. Name's Wesley Harland, retired cabinet maker, lives in Fairmont. That's an hour and a half away, closer than Tennessee. He gave me the number. Did you reach the planer buyer? Left a message. Drill press buyer declined to release it. I wrote the names on the back of a maintenance request. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I didn't say it was enough. Cal made that near-laughing grunt again. You're definitely a woodworker. Wesley Harland answered on the 5th ring. Cal said you might call, he said. His voice was low and scratchy, like a hand plane traveling over difficult grain. You bought a set of carving tools from the Mercer lot. I did. They belonged to my father. He said they belonged to you. The directness caught me off guard. Yes. Then we should talk. I can pay what you paid. That isn't what I said. It's what everyone else has said. Well, I'm not everyone else. I'm Wesley. I waited. You free Saturday morning? He asked. Bring something that shows me you know those tools. Shows you? I bought carving tools, not a family story. The irritation arrived before I could stop it. My brother already made me prove they were mine by stealing them. I'm not auditioning to get them back. Good. Good? If you'd agreed too fast, I'd assume you were trying to flip them. I'm not trying to flip anything. Saturday at 10. Cal has my address. He hung up. When Denise returned my phone at the end of the day, I had 11 messages. 5 were from Ryan, 4 from Mom, 1 from Cal containing Wesley's address, and 1 was an automated reminder that my rent would be withdrawn Friday. Ryan's final message said, I handled it. I opened the website. The walnut cabinet was still there. So were the maple table and tea chest. He had changed the heading above them from Our Work to the Mercer Tradition. Beneath the photographs, he had added a paragraph. Founded by Ryan Mercer, Mercer Son builds on the techniques of master craftsman Thomas Mercer, with design support from his daughter, Laurel. I called him. See, he answered, fixed. You used my name to credit you. I didn't give you permission. You wanted credit. I wanted the pictures removed. I can't remove the portfolio in the middle of a contract, then remove my name. So you'd rather I take credit for your work? I'd rather you stop showing it. That's not an option right now. He sounded tired, not smug. Behind him, a power tool whined and stopped. What are you doing? Breaking down stock. With what? Rented track saw. Where? Mom's. I stood up from my desk. You brought lumber to Mom's house? There's room in the shop. My bench is there. I know. I'm not touching it. Your track saw is in the same room. I needed a staging area. You needed to ask. You'd say no. Again, as if predicting my refusal gave him the right to skip it. I'm coming over. Great. You can look at the walnut. I'm not looking at the walnut. Fine. He said it too easily. When I reached Mom's, the garage door was open. Walnut boards were stacked on stickers along one wall, each one marked in green chalk. A rented track saw lay on Dad's bench despite Ryan's promise. Extension cords crossed the floor. The air smelled sweet and dusty. Ryan stood beside a half-assembled table base. He wore Dad's old hearing protection around his neck. "Take those off," I said. He touched the earmuffs. These were in the house. They were Dad's. So is my DNA. Are we dividing that up too? Mom appeared carrying a tray with lemonade and 3 glasses. You came. I'm here to get the rest of my things. Her smile faltered. What rest? I moved the track saw onto the floor and opened the bench drawers. Dad's sharpening stones were gone, but my dovetailed jig, card scrapers, bench dogs, and 2 homemade routing templates were still there. Ryan watched me gather them. You don't have to do this. I do, apparently. I told you I'm replacing everything. With money from tables you don't know how to build. His face reddened. I know more than you think. He gripped one end of the table base and pushed. It rocked badly enough that the opposite leg lifted half an inch. Mom set the tray down. Ice clicked against the glasses. Ryan looked at the base, then at me. The floor isn't level. The floor is fine. You didn't check it. I poured that section with Dad. He crouched and examined the joints. His confidence thinned around the edges. Just tell me what's wrong, he said. There was no charm in it now. No percentage, no family legacy. For the first time, he sounded scared. I could see 3 problems without stepping closer. He had milled the legs before the walnut finished acclimating. 1 apron was bowed. At least 2 mortises were out of square. Mom held out a glass of lemonade to me, like we were 1 helpful sentence away from being a family again. I closed the drawer and lifted my box of jigs. Ryan stood. Seriously? You're not even going to tell me? You said you knew more than I thought. That doesn't mean I know everything. No. It means you sold the things Dad left me because you thought knowing me was the same as knowing how. I carried the box toward my car. Behind me, the table base rocked again. This time, nobody blamed the floor. Mom followed me to the driveway with 1 glass of lemonade still in her hand. You could have answered 1 question. I opened my trunk. He didn't ask 1 question. He asked me to take the first step onto an escalator. What does that even mean? It means if I tell him the apron is bowed, next I'm showing him how to remake it. Then I'm checking his joinery. Then I'm finishing 18 tables at 2 in the morning while he tells the client how hard he worked. He asked what was wrong. He knew the base rocked. That's what was wrong. You know what I mean. I placed the box inside, wedging it between a blanket and an emergency kit so the jigs wouldn't slide. Mom stood close enough that the condensation from her glass dripped onto my bumper. Your father would not have driven away when one of you needed help. Dad spent 40 years teaching people who were willing to learn. He tried to teach Ryan, and Ryan didn't want to learn until he sold the tools. She took a drink, but the ice had blocked the rim. Lemonade spilled down the front of her blouse. Damn it. I reached for the napkins in my glove compartment. She waved me away, then changed her mind and held out her hand. I gave her the whole stack. He's your brother, she said, blotting the yellow stain. I'm aware. You act like I'm asking you to help a stranger. A stranger wouldn't have had the key. Her face folded in that small, wounded way that usually made me apologize before I could decide whether I was sorry. I trusted you, I said. I didn't sell them. You made sure you weren't home when they left. She looked toward the workshop. The open garage door framed Ryan inside. He had flipped the base upside down on Dad's bench. One of the legs stuck into the air at an angle that would have embarrassed a folding chair. He moved around it with a square, refusing to look toward us. "Your brother told me you'd agreed to be part of the business," Mom said. "And you believed him?" "He showed me the website. The website he made using my work? I didn't know that at the time. You saw the record cabinet every day while Dad and I built it. I knew you helped." I stared at her. She sighed. "I don't know which person made every cut, Laurel. Your father talked about the shop, and I listened, but half the words went past me. Rabbits and biscuits and all those clamps. Rabbits. See? That cabinet wasn't a vocabulary quiz. I brought it into the living room when it was finished. Dad told you I built it. He was proud of you. But you thought Ryan might have built it. I thought it was family work. Family work." The phrase wrapped around everything until nobody could tell where my hands ended and Ryan's began. I closed the trunk. Mom touched my arm. "Stay for dinner." "No. I already thawed the chicken. Put it back in the refrigerator. You can't refreeze chicken. Then you and Ryan are having a lot of chicken." I got into my car. As I backed out, Ryan finally looked up. He was holding Dad's square in one hand. I almost stopped. The square had been in the oak chest I bought from Cal. Dad's larger framing square had stayed in the bench drawer, but the one Ryan held was a 12-inch combination square with a brass lock nut. It looked like mine from a distance. For half a second, panic tightened my throat. Then Ryan turned it and I saw the black plastic head. Hardware store model. New. I drove home. There was a voicemail waiting from the cooperative workshop. "Hi, Laurel, it's Naomi from Broad Street Makers. We had a bay open sooner than expected. It's the 8x10 near the finishing room. If you still want it, I need the deposit by Monday at noon. Call me." I played the message twice. I had been on the waiting list for 9 months. The bay had concrete floors, lockable storage, dust collection, and access to shared machines after orientation. It wasn't Dad's workshop, but it was mine in the only way that mattered. Nobody could enter without my permission. I opened my banking app. After buying back the chest and plane, I was $960 short of the deposit. I could cover it if I put groceries and gas on a credit card, delayed the car repair I had scheduled, and ignored the fact that my rent had just come out. I called Naomi. "Any chance I can have until Friday?" "I wish I could," she said. "There are 6 people behind you. What if I pay half Monday? The board changed the policy after somebody held a bay for 3 months and never moved in. I won't do that." "I know. But if I bend it for you, I have to bend it for everybody. Everybody again, though this version of everybody had rules." "I understand. I can put you at the top if another one opens. That could be months." "It could." I told her I'd call by Monday, then sat on the floor beside my box of jigs and tried to make the numbers become different. They didn't. Wesley Harland lived at the end of a gravel road behind a house with faded blue shutters. His workshop was a low-metal building surrounded by maple trees. When I arrived Saturday morning, a black dog watched me from the porch without getting up. Wesley opened the side door before I knocked. He was tall and narrow, with white hair pulled into a short ponytail. A pencil sat behind each ear. "You're late," he said. I checked my phone. "It's 9:58. Then I'm early." He stepped aside. His shop was clean but not precious. Carving gouges stood in racks along one wall, organized by sweep and width. Half a dozen carved panels leaned beneath the windows. One showed irises, another showed a heron lifting out of reeds, one wing still unfinished. Dad's canvas tool roll sat on the center bench. I recognized the dark stain near the tie. Wesley nodded at the block plane in my hand. "That what you brought? You said to bring something that showed I knew the tools. That shows you bought a plane." I set it on his bench, loosened the lever cap, and removed the iron. Dad ground this one with a slight camber because he used it to clean up rough edges. He flattened the back on water stones, but switched to diamond plates after his hands started cramping. The cap iron has a scratch shaped like a 7 because I dropped it in the driveway when I was 22. Wesley picked up the iron and found the scratch. He wrote his name on everything? Only after Ryan borrowed his socket set and returned half of it in a grocery bag. Your brother sell that too? Not yet. Wesley smiled. Show me your hands. I didn't move. Why? Curious. I held them out. He took my right hand, turned it palm up, and pressed his thumb against the callus below my index finger. Then he released it. You haven't carved in a while. My father got sick. Your father's tools have been sitting 6 months. Your hands say longer. I bristled. I wasn't his employee. Didn't say you were. I work full time. Didn't say you didn't. Are you always like this? Ask the dog. He's known me longest. The dog remained visible through the window, asleep now. Wesley untied the canvas roll. Dad's carving tools lay inside, their handles pointing in alternating directions. 9 gouges, 3 V-tools, 2 skew chisels, and a veiner. The set should have held 16. The fishtail is missing, I said. Good. And the shallow number 3, better. Dad kept the fishtail separate because the handle was cracked. The 3 was in a leather guard. Wesley opened a drawer and took them out. My relief embarrassed me. I hadn't known those 2 tools mattered more until I saw them. You paid Cal for all of these? I asked. I did. I can't buy them today. I know. How? Your brother called me. I looked up. Said there was a misunderstanding. Wesley continued. Asked if I could hold the set until his first contract paid. Then he asked if I knew anybody who could carve 12 company logos in walnut by next month. 18. What? There are 18 tables. He said 12 logos. I could picture the arithmetic happening in Ryan's head. Put logos on 12. Call 6 minimalist. What did you tell him? That I'm retired, are you? When I dislike the job. I touched the handle of Dad's V-tool. How much? Wesley named a number. It was fair. It was also more than the workshop deposit. I need time. I can give you that. How much? Till I die, probably. Doctor seems disappointed by my durability. I'm serious. So am I. I bought them to use. I won't sell them while you're trying to get them back. It wasn't generosity exactly. The tools would remain his until I paid. But it was the first time anyone involved had acknowledged that my trying mattered. Then Wesley reached beneath the bench and brought out Dad's mallet. The head was applewood, scarred along one face. Dad had turned it on the lathe the year I finished community college. The handle had a shallow groove where his wedding ring struck it over decades of use. Wesley held it toward me. I didn't buy the lot for this, he said. I didn't take it. It was included. It belongs with the hand that knows that groove. How much? Nothing. I can pay. You're not paying me for a used chunk of applewood so we can both pretend this is a store. My fingers closed around the handle. It felt lighter than I remembered. Thank you, I said. Wesley rolled the other tools back into the canvas. You want coffee? I should get going. That wasn't the question. His coffee was terrible. Dad would have liked him. We sat on stools near the open door while the black dog came inside and leaned against my leg. Wesley did not ask how Dad died. He asked what Dad made when nobody was paying him. Boxes, I said. Too many boxes. No such thing. He made one for the television remote. Practical. It had hand-cut dovetails and a marquetry lid. Still practical. My phone rang on the bench. Mom. I let it stop. It rang again. You can answer, Wesley said. She wants something. People usually do when they call. On the third call, I picked up. The thermostat is blank, Mom said without saying hello. Ryan changed the batteries, but the air conditioner won't start. Call the HVAC company. They charge a weekend fee. Yes, you're already out this way. I'm an hour from you. You know what I mean. I looked at Dad's mallet beside the phone. Normally, I would have driven over. I would have checked the breaker, cleaned the condensate line, and accepted a container of leftovers so Mom could call the exchange even. I'm not available. There was a stunned pause. For 5 minutes? She asked. I'm not 5 minutes away, but you can tell Ryan what to check. He can call the HVAC company. Her voice cooled. I see. I don't think you do. Oh, I do. You're making your point. No, Mom. I'm having coffee. I ended the call before she could turn air conditioning into a referendum on love. Wesley sipped from his mug. Good coffee? Awful. He nodded. Worth protecting, then. When I left, Mom's house was not on my route. For the first time in 11 years, I didn't make it my route anyway. Mom texted me a photograph of the HVAC invoice before I reached the highway. Clogged drain line. 10-minute fix. $287. Hope the coffee was worth it. I stopped at a red light and typed, "It was terrible." Then I deleted it because even humor could become an opening. Her second message arrived before the light changed. Your father would have come. That one I answered. Dad wouldn't have sold my tools. 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. No message came. I set Dad's mallet on the passenger seat for the drive home. Every time I turned, the round head rolled until the handle tapped the center console. The sound was soft and familiar. Dad used to tap that mallet against his thigh when he was thinking through a cut. Once, while building a curved reception desk for a dental office, he'd tapped himself purple for 2 straight weeks and refused to admit he knew where the bruise came from. By Monday morning, the mallet had a place on the oak chest beside the block plane. The chest sat beneath my living room window, too close to the radiator and too far from anything resembling a workbench. I opened it before leaving for work, shut it, then opened it again to make sure the tools had not disappeared overnight. Naomi called at 11:42. I need to know about the bay, she said gently. I had spent the morning calculating whether I could survive until payday on $38 and half a tank of gas. The answer depended on whether my car made a noise it had been saving for a special occasion. I can't do the deposit today. I'm sorry. Me too. I'll keep you first on the list. Do that? You sure? Sometimes people prefer moving down until they're ready. If I wait until I'm ready, I'll be 80. 80-year-olds make excellent woodworkers. No wasted motion. I'd still like the next bay. After we hung up, I sat in the mechanical room with the hum of the chillers filling my ears. Losing the bay was not Ryan's fault in the clean, direct way selling the tools was. I had chosen to buy back the plane and chest. I would make that choice again. It still felt like he had sold the same things twice. First the tools, then the place I might have used them. Denise found me there with a package of peanut butter crackers. You hiding? Having lunch? That's not lunch. It contains 2 food groups, salt and despair, peanuts or legumes. She sat beside me on an overturned bucket. How'd the hostage negotiation go? I got a mallet back. Just a mallet? It's a very good mallet. Does it do anything besides hit stuff? You can hit stuff accurately. Okay, Thor. My phone rang before I could defend applewood as a material. The number was local but unfamiliar. I answered with my work voice. This is Laurel. Hi, Laurel. This is Tess Callahan with Abernathy Rowan. Do you have a minute? I did not recognize the name until she continued. I'm coordinating the Wade Mill interiors. Ryan said you'd be joining us for the finish review tomorrow, but I haven't received your availability. Denise saw my face and quietly took the crackers from my hand. I won't be joining you. Oh. Tess paused. She had a brisk, measured voice, the kind that made every syllable sound scheduled. Ryan described you as the design side of Mercer Sun. I'm not part of Mercer Sun. Another pause, longer this time. I may have misunderstood. No. I think he wanted you to misunderstand. The chillers kicked into a higher cycle behind me. Tess lowered her voice. The work on the website is yours, correct? I should have softened it. Dad would have. He could tell the truth in a way that gave people somewhere comfortable to stand afterward. I was tired of building comfortable places for Ryan. Yes, the record cabinet, I built it. The maple conference table, it's a dining table. I built it for my mother. The tea box, tea chest, also mine. I see. He grew up around the work. That part is true. But I did not agree to work for him, and he did not have my permission to use my name or those photographs. Tess was silent long enough that I could hear someone speaking in her office. "Thank you for clarifying," she said. "Are you canceling his contract?" "That isn't my decision alone. I'm not asking you to cancel it. I didn't say you were." Her professionalism made me feel 12 years old. "I only want my work and name removed. I understand." When the call ended, Denise handed back my crackers. "Who was that?" "Ryan's client." "Oh." She thought I worked for him. "Did you tell her you don't?" "Yes." "Good. I might have just cost him the order. Did you sign the contract?" "No." "Did you build the website?" "No." "Did you sell yourself to a customer like a countertop option?" "No." "Then finish your sad crackers." Ryan called 4 minutes later. I declined it. He called again. I declined that one too. His text arrived in capital letters. "What did you say to Tess?" The next message came in lowercase. "Please call me before she talks to the partners." I put the phone in my desk drawer and went upstairs to check a ventilation complaint in the pharmacy. At 12:30, the reception desk called to say my brother was in the lobby. He stood beneath a sign asking visitors to sanitize their hands. His hair was full of sawdust, and he wore a navy button-down with one cuff rolled higher than the other. He looked exhausted. It made him seem younger until he opened his mouth. "What the hell did you tell her?" The receptionist pretended to organize visitor badges. "Not here," I said. "You wouldn't answer. I was working. We need to fix this before Tess takes it upstairs." I walked him outside to a concrete bench near the employee entrance. Ambulances moved through the loop 30 yards away. Ryan followed, still talking. "You could have said there was a scheduling issue." "There is. I'm unavailable forever. Do you understand what's at stake? My things, my work, my name, besides you." There it was, so clean I almost admired it. "For once in your life," I said. "Finish that sentence." He rubbed both hands over his face. Green chalk remained beneath one thumbnail. "I didn't mean it like that. You meant the order. I meant everything. Mom's house, Dad's reputation, the deposit I already put into materials. If they pull out now, I'm buried. Why did Tess have my number? I gave it to her." "Why? She wanted you at the finish review. You told her I was coming?" "I thought once we got close, you'd see the scale of this and stop being angry. I'm not angry because I don't understand the scale." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I took the rocking base apart. "Good. Milled 2 new aprons. Let them sit overnight. Recut the mortises." I said nothing. "It doesn't rock now. Good." A tiny flicker crossed his face. Pride or maybe hope. "I can do this, Laurel." "Then do it." "I need Tess to believe I can. That's a separate job. You know how clients are. They get nervous. She heard family disagreement and now she thinks the whole company is fake. You told her I was the design side. I was going to make it true." The sentence sat there between us. Ryan looked down at his hands. I know I should have asked. Before which part? All of it. It was the closest he had come to admitting anything, and he sounded sincere enough to make me furious. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded finish sample. A thin walnut board, maybe 8 inches long, stained on one half and clear-coated on the other. Tess picked this color from the supplier samples. It went purple under their office lighting. I found a warmer stain. He held it toward me. I didn't take it. "I'm not asking you to fix anything," he said. "Just tell me if this reads too red. You drove to my workplace for a color opinion. I drove here because you told my client I lied. You did lie. I exaggerated the structure of the company. There is no structure. It's you in Mom's garage with rented tools." "Workshop," he said. I looked at him. "What?" He gave a tired half shrug. Apparently it matters. It was unfair that he could make me want to smile while I was imagining throwing his sample into the ambulance lane. I stood. "Remove my name and my work from the website. Tell Tess I was never involved. Then whatever happens belongs to you. And the tools? You pay me what they're worth, not what Cal paid you. I don't have that kind of cash. Then make payments. If Abernathy Rowan cancels, I can't. That doesn't turn me into your employee." He turned the sample board over in his hands. "Dad mortgaged the house to buy his first shop." "No, he didn't." Ryan looked up. He took a small loan against the truck. Mom refused to let him touch the house. He told me he risked everything. Dad told stories according to what sounded best after dinner. Ryan stared toward the ambulance loop. He wanted me to do something real, he said. He wanted you to stop quitting when the fun part ended. That's basically what I said. No, it isn't. His shoulders dropped. For a moment, he looked less like a thief and more like my brother, the man who sat on the bathroom floor with me after Dad's last ambulance ride because neither of us could stand to go back into the bedroom. Then he held the walnut sample out again. I walked inside. Mom was waiting at my apartment when I got home. She sat in her car with the engine off, the windows down, and a casserole dish on the passenger seat. I pulled into my assigned spot and stayed behind the wheel. She got out carrying the dish. I made tuna noodles, she said. I can see the potato chips. You always like the chips. I unlocked the building door. She followed me without being invited, which was its own family tradition. Inside my apartment, she noticed the mallet immediately. Oh, she said. She set the casserole on my counter and crossed the living room. When she picked up the mallet, her thumb found the groove in the handle. Your father made this the year we redid the upstairs bathroom. The year I finished community college, same year. She tapped the head lightly against her palm. He drove me crazy with this thing. Tap, tap, tap while he was thinking. Sometimes I wanted to throw it into the yard. You would have had to find it first. He hid everything from me after I donated that box of bent screwdrivers. They were carving chisels. Well, they looked terrible. She smiled. I did too, briefly. Then she put the mallet down. Ryan says you told his client he lied. He did. Now they want another review before they approve production. That's reasonable. He has the sample table almost finished. Good. She's coming Thursday. I waited. Mom clasped her hands. He needs the finish right. There are finish manufacturers with phone numbers. He needs you. No. He needs what I know. What's the difference? I looked at her. For once, she didn't turn away. The difference, I said, is whether I get to decide when I give it. Mom touched the groove in Dad's mallet again. If he loses this order, he can't pay you back. That's Ryan's problem. You don't mean that. I'm starting to. Her expression hardened. You would rather watch him fail than spend one afternoon helping. He had months to ask for help. He waited until helping became the price of getting back what he stole. That's not how he sees it. No, it's how he planned it. She picked up her purse. At the door, she glanced toward the casserole. Put that in the refrigerator. I know how food works. I'm still your mother. I know. She stood there as if waiting for me to prove it meant the same thing it used to. Then she left. The tuna noodle casserole sat between my recovered tools and an unpaid deposit I no longer had to make. I put it in the refrigerator. I did not call Ryan about the finish. The website changed the next morning. The photograph of Dad's hands disappeared first. Then the record cabinet, Mom's dining table, and the tea chest vanished from the portfolio. By lunch, the entire portfolio tab was gone. The home page showed a close-up of walnut grain beneath the words, Honest Materials, Lasting Work. Ryan texted one word, Done. I stared at it longer than it deserved. Thank you, I wrote. His reply came immediately. Thursday, still happening. I didn't answer. Thursday happened without me. Mom sent a photograph at 10:23. Ryan stood in the workshop beside a finished sample table, his hand resting on the edge. He had put on a sport coat over his work shirt. Across from him, a dark-haired woman I assumed was Tess, bent to inspect the underside, while an older man in glasses looked at the finish beneath a portable light. The table was better than the base I had seen. Ryan had remade the aprons and added adjustable feet. The proportions were heavy, but architecture firms liked heavy furniture because it photographed as permanent. The walnut top had a warm brown finish instead of the purple cast in his first sample. Mom's caption said, "They like it." 5 minutes later, she added, "You could be happy for him." I enlarged the photograph. The top looked flat. The joint between the apron and leg was closed. Ryan had sanded the edges too soft, but that was taste, not failure. I could be happy for him. That was the irritating part. At 11, Ryan called. They approved it, he said. He was trying to sound casual and failing. Energy crackled through every word. Congratulations. You mean that? Yes. Tess wants one small change to the credenza pulls. The table is approved as shown. That's good. We start full production tomorrow. Okay. He waited, perhaps expecting more. A confession that I'd been wrong. An offer to bring champagne. My immediate enrollment in Mercer Sun. I figured out the finish, he said. I heard. Mom sent you pictures? Yes. The supplier's rep helped me adjust the stain. We did a shellac wash coat first. That'll control blotching. The words escaped before I could stop them. Ryan laughed. See? We can have a normal conversation. That was 4 words. 5, if you count the contraction. I'm hanging up. Wait, I need to borrow the marking gauge. No, you have 2. No, I need it for the logo placement. Buy 1. A good one is $140. You sold mine for less than that. Silence. Then he said, I'm trying to include you. By borrowing back the things I bought back? I heard it when I said it. That surprised me enough to keep me on the phone. I'll buy one, he said. Forget it. How many logos? 12. They decided the 6 smaller tables don't need them. Wesley's version of the conversation had been accurate then. Ryan had already been looking for a carver before the sample was approved. You have somebody to carve them? I found a CNC shop. You told the client they'd be hand-carved. I told them they'd be carved. Let's not create problems where there aren't any. Good luck with production. I don't need luck. He said it too quickly. Saturday morning, I drove back to Wesley's with $100 in an envelope. He opened the door, looked at the envelope, and said, What's that? First payment. Coffee money? Your coffee should be illegal to sell. Then I'll accept it as bail. He wrote the amount on a card and tucked it into the tool roll. No contract, no interest calculation, no speech about trust. Just my name, the date, and the balance. You sharpen that plane? He asked. I don't have a bench. Tables exist, not ones I'm allowed to ruin. Wesley pointed to an empty bench near the windows. That one's difficult to offend. I had brought the block plane because leaving it in my apartment felt worse than admitting I needed space. Wesley's sharpening station was set up with diamond plates, exactly as Dad's had been near the end. I flattened the back of the iron, re-established the bevel, and honed until it caught the overhead light in one clean line. Wesley pretended not to watch. When I put the plane back together, he slid a strip of cherry across the bench. Show me. The first shaving tore halfway down. You're favoring the right side, he said. I know. Then stop. Excellent instruction. Free, too. I adjusted the iron and tried again. The shaving came off thin and curled into itself, warm in my hand. For 2 hours, I flattened scrap wood. There was no project, no deadline, no family story attached to it. Just high spots disappearing beneath the blade and Wesley's dog sleeping where I was most likely to trip over him. At noon, Wesley set 2 mugs beside the bench. You work too fast, he said. I work efficiently. You work like somebody's waiting. Nobody's waiting. Then why are you rushing? I looked at the cherry board. I had flattened it past flat, taking fine shavings from a surface that no longer needed correction. Habit. Bad one. I ran my palm along the wood. Wesley opened the tool roll and took out Dad's cracked-handled fishtail gouge. Your father repaired this with fishing line. He said linen thread. It's fishing line. He lied about materials when the story sounded better. Good craftsman? Yes. Good father? I looked at him. Those aren't the same question. Didn't think they were. Dad had loved me. He had also called me from dinner with friends because Ryan's truck wouldn't start, though Ryan had been sitting beside him with his own phone. Dad knew I would come. Everybody knew. He noticed me, I said. Wesley nodded as if that were a complete answer. My phone buzzed on the bench. Ryan had sent a picture of 24 walnut leg blanks stacked directly on the concrete floor. They were freshly milled, their end grain bright. Do these need stickers if we're using them Monday? I turned the phone over. Wesley sipped his coffee. Somebody waiting? No. Good. I left at 2 with the plane wrapped in a towel and the cherry board tucked under my arm. Wesley had told me to take it because, according to him, I'd already converted half of it into expensive dust. Mom called while I was driving. Are you coming tomorrow? Coming where? Sunday dinner. I hadn't realized she was still expecting me. Sunday dinner had been so automatic for so long that apparently it survived theft, betrayal, and a $287 thermostat invoice. Is Ryan going to be there? He works there now. That wasn't my question. Yes, then no. You can't avoid your brother forever. I saw him Thursday. You did? He came to my job. He said you congratulated him. I did. Her voice brightened. Then this is getting better. No, Mom. He completed 1 sample table. Those are separate facts, but you're not hoping he fails. I never said I was. You haven't exactly cheered. I don't cheer at work. He thinks you'd be impressed if you saw the shop now. The shop was impressive before he emptied it. She went quiet. I almost apologized. The instinct rose automatically, a little internal employee reporting for duty. Instead, I said, I'll come by at 4. I need to bring your casserole dish back. I'm not staying for dinner. You ate it? Some of it. I knew you liked the chips. At 4, Mom's driveway was crowded with Ryan's truck, a rented cargo van, and my mother's sedan. The workshop door stood open. The walnut smell reached me before I got out of the car. Mom met me on the back steps. You're early. It's 4:02. I thought you'd be late. I'm never late. You were born 9 days late. I didn't own a watch. She smiled, and there she was, my mother, who could be funny and warm and impossible in the same breath. I handed her the casserole dish. Come look, she said. No, you don't have to help, no. At least see what he's done. I've seen the pictures. Pictures don't show everything. That was true, though not in the way she intended. I followed her into the house instead. A lower cabinet door hung crooked beneath the kitchen sink. Mom noticed me notice it. The hinge came loose. Did you call Ryan? He's busy. Of course he was. She caught herself. Could you look at it? If you don't want to, I'll call someone. The second sentence changed the first. I'll look. Mom brought me Dad's old red toolbox from the hall closet. The useful tools were gone, but there was a Phillips screwdriver, a pair of pliers, and a tape measure with a cracked case. The hinge screws had stripped their holes. I found toothpicks in a drawer, snapped them into the holes with a dab of glue, and reset the screws. Mom stood beside me without giving advice, which might have been a personal record. Thank you, she said. You asked. I usually ask. No. You usually describe a problem until I fix it. She opened her mouth, then closed it. From the workshop came a loud bang, followed by Ryan swearing. Mom looked toward the back door. I kept tightening the hinge. Another bang. Laurel, she said. He has a phone. What if he's hurt? He swore in full sentences. She waited 3 seconds, then hurried outside. I finished the cabinet and washed the glue from my fingers. I could have left through the front door. Instead, I went to the workshop because curiosity is not the same thing as forgiveness, no matter what Mom believed. Ryan had dropped one of the walnut tops across 2 sawhorses. It wasn't injured. The bang had been the wood landing. Stacks of parts filled the room. Legs, aprons, and rough-cut panels leaned wherever space allowed. A new benchtop planer sat near the wall. The rented track saw had been joined by a biscuit joiner, random orbit sanders, and a moisture meter still in its plastic packaging. Mom stood over Ryan while he inspected the top. See? She said when I entered. He's fine. Ryan looked up. Couldn't resist. I fixed the sink hinge. You could have just said hello. Hello. His mouth twitched. I walked around the table without touching it. The join between 2 boards had opened near one end. Not much. Maybe the width of a dime. Enough. Ryan put his palm over the gap. Glue-starved joint, he said. I can redo it. Maybe. He heard the word. What does that mean? It means maybe. He picked up the moisture meter, pressed the power button, and touched the pins to the wood. The display flashed 13.8. He frowned. That seems high. I looked toward the stack of leg blanks on the concrete. Several had already begun to twist, one corner lifted clear of the floor. Mom followed my gaze. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Ryan answered before I could. "It's walnut. Wood moves." He said it with confidence, like a sentence memorized from Dad. He pressed the meter into another board. 14.2. The sample had been made from dry stock supplied separately. This was the production lumber. 18 tables and 6 credenzas were sitting in Mom's workshop, still deciding what shape they wanted to be. Ryan looked at me. I picked up my keys. "You know what this means?" he said. "Yes." "Then tell me. You have a moisture meter. I'm asking you." "No. You're asking because the answer is going to cost time and money, and you want it to come from me." His face changed. Behind him, one of the freshly milled legs gave a small, dry tick. We all heard it. A thin split opened at the end. Ryan stared at the split as if it had happened out of spite. "It's just checking at the end," he said. "It's 4 inches long. I can cut past it. Then the leg will be short. I have extra length." He grabbed a pencil and measured from the split. His movements were fast and rough. The tape slipped off the end twice. Mom hovered beside the stack. "Can you glue it?" "No," Ryan and I said together. He looked at me. "So you are capable of answering." Mom asked a yes or no question. "What do I do with the rest? You stop milling it." "For how long?" "Ask your supplier. I'm asking you. And I'm telling you to call the person who sold it." His jaw tightened. "They said it was ready. Did they say it was kiln-dried?" "They said it had been stored indoors." Those are different sentences. He picked up the moisture meter again. What should it read? The answer was easy. Depending on the shop and final environment, I would have wanted the walnut around 6 to 8%, maybe 9. Dad used to refuse anything over 10 for interior furniture and complain that even 9 was wood with travel plans. I could have said a number. One number would not have built 18 tables. That was how the escalator worked. "Read the manual," I said. Ryan threw the moisture meter onto Dad's bench. It bounced once. "Don't throw things on my bench." He laughed without humor. "Your bench, your tools, your photographs, your precious credit. Everything has your name on it now. The company has yours, and you're doing everything you can to make sure it dies." Mom stepped between us, though neither of us had moved. "Stop it, both of you." "I didn't wet the lumber," I said. Ryan pointed toward the open door. "Go." I looked at him. "You wanted me to ask instead of assume, right? I'm asking you to leave." It hurt, which annoyed me. He was standing in the workshop Dad left me, telling me to go, and somehow he still managed to sound like the injured one. Mom touched his arm. "Ryan." "No, she comes in here. Looks at everything like she's waiting for it to fail, and then walks away with the answer in her pocket." "You already know the answer," I said. "The wood is too wet. Stop cutting and deal with it." His face flickered. There. I had given him the number without giving him the number. I left before he could ask for more. Ryan called the supplier Monday morning and learned that the walnut had been air-dried, not kiln-dried. He told me this in a text that began with, "You were right," and ended with, "Can you call me?" I did not call. An hour later, another message arrived. They'll exchange the uncut boards, but not the milled stock. I have to cover the difference for kiln-dried. Then, "This sets me back a week." Then, "I know that isn't your problem." That last sentence bothered me more than the others. It sounded like someone learning my language in order to get through the door. I put my phone away and spent the morning inspecting a rooftop unit that had developed a vibration. The fan assembly was out of balance, and one of the mounting bolts had worked loose. I replaced the bolt, checked the others, and stood there listening until the hum settled into something even. Machines told the truth eventually. People could run much longer while coming apart. Mom asked me to lunch on Tuesday, not Sunday dinner, not come by the house. Lunch, At a diner halfway between the hospital and her neighborhood, with a time and a question mark at the end of the text. I said yes. She was already in a booth when I arrived. Her hair was freshly done, and she wore lipstick the color Dad used to call fire engine red. He had loved that lipstick. Mom claimed he only noticed it because she left marks on his coffee cups. I ordered you iced tea, she said. Thank you. Unsweetened, I know you know. She looked down at the menu. The air conditioning company waived the service fee. How? I called and said $287 was robbery. It was a weekend visit. They could have warned me. They did. You told me. Well, they reduced it to $190. That's good. I can handle things. I didn't say you couldn't. No. You just stopped handling them. The waitress appeared and Mom ordered a turkey club. I ordered soup. We waited until the woman walked away. Those aren't the same thing, I said. They feel the same from my side. From your side, the thermostat stopped working and the cabinet hinge came loose. From mine, every loose hinge has been my problem since I was 20. That is an exaggeration. Last Thanksgiving, I fixed the garbage disposal while everyone else ate pie. There was a spoon in it. Ryan put the spoon in it. He didn't see it. It was a serving spoon. Mom folded and unfolded the corner of her napkin. I don't remember asking you to fix the disposal. You stood in the doorway saying, I don't know what we're going to do, until I got up. That isn't asking. That's my point. Our drinks arrived. Mom pushed mine toward me. For a while, we listened to forks scrape plates in neighboring booths. Watching you in the workshop was hard, she said. The change in direction was so sudden that I thought I'd miss something. After your father died, she continued, every Sunday you went straight out there. You wore his apron. Sometimes I would stand at the kitchen window, and for half a second I'd see somebody moving and think it was him. I looked at the condensation on my glass. You could have told me. What would I say? Stop missing your father where I can see you. You could have said it hurt. You had enough. That was Mom's version of kindness. She decided what people could bear, then made choices without them. So when Ryan came with the business idea, I said, you wanted the workshop changed. I wanted it alive. It was alive. You were preserving it. I was using it. To make a tea box. Chest. She closed her eyes briefly. Chest. Our food came. Mom removed the frilly toothpick from her club sandwich and placed it carefully beside her plate. Ryan talked about people coming and going, she said. Deliveries, orders, your father's name on something new. It sounded better than dust. He sold the things that made it Dad's workshop. I didn't think of it that way. You didn't think of it my way. No, she said. I didn't. The admission was small. It did not contain an apology. Still, I felt it settle. Mom picked up 1/4 of her sandwich but did not eat it. I thought Ryan had talked to you. You said that. I also knew he probably hadn't talked to you in the way you would count as talking. The way where I'm present. Her mouth twitched, then flattened. He was so excited, Laurel. You should have seen him. I've seen him excited. I helped move a commercial griddle into a food truck. This was different. It always is at the beginning. He is working now. I know. He sleeps 4 hours. His hands are blistered. Yesterday, he drove the wet lumber back himself, loaded every board, and argued until they gave him the contractor rate on the replacement. That doesn't make the tools his. I'm not saying it does. It usually comes next. Mom finally took a bite. She chewed for a long time. What would make a difference? She asked. He returns what he can. He pays for what he can't. He tells the truth without attaching a request. That could take years. Yes. He thinks if this order succeeds, he can pay you quickly. He thinks success gets to happen before accountability. What if it's the only way he can afford accountability? Then he'd better succeed without me. Mom set down her sandwich. You really won't help him. I helped him on Sunday. You told him the wood was wet after standing there watching him ruin it. I told him before he cut the rest. Her phone buzzed beside her plate. Ryan's name appeared. She turned the phone over. You can answer, I said. He wants me to pick up sanding discs. Are you going to? No. That surprised me. He gave me a list this morning, she said. like I was his assistant. I told him I had lunch. Good. He said it was on my way. Is it? Yes. We both laughed. Mom's laugh broke first. She covered her mouth, and for one hopeful second, the space between us felt ordinary. Then she looked at me over her fingers. He gets that from us. What? The assumption that you'll come. I did not know what to do with that, so I drank my tea. Ryan bought kiln-dried walnut with the remainder of his materials budget. The replacement arrived Friday. I knew because he sent me a photograph of the moisture meter reading 7.4. No question, no request, just the number. I replied with a thumbs up, then hated myself for spending 10 minutes deciding which color thumbs up looked least encouraging. Sunday evening, he came to my apartment carrying a cardboard box. I brought you something, he said. Inside were Dad's bench chisels, all 6 wrapped in brown paper. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Cal called, Ryan said. The buyer hadn't picked them up yet. I lifted the half-inch chisel. Dad had shortened the handle after splitting it with a hammer. I could feel the ridge of the repair beneath my thumb. You bought these back? Ryan nodded. With what money? He leaned against my counter. I sold my guitar. The Martin? I never play it. You love that guitar. I love the idea that I play guitar. There's a difference. I set the chisel down. Thank you. He looked around the apartment, at the oak chest and the plane and Dad's mallet. You're really rebuilding the whole shop in your living room, as much as I can. He nodded toward the box. That's 6 more. I waited for the request. It came, but not immediately. I'm short on labor, he said. Not skilled labor. Sanding, moving stock, basic assembly. I can hire 2 guys, but it eats what's left of the deposit. No, I'm not asking you to do it. Then who? He rubbed the back of his neck. Could you loan me $6,000 until the first progress payment? The return chisel sat between us. There it was, the gift with a door hidden inside it. No. I sold the guitar to get your tools back. That was the right thing to do. It leaves me short. Those 2 facts don't create a loan. His face reddened. You said accountability without a request? Fine. Pretend I brought the chisels yesterday and asked for money today. No, yesterday too. I can put the truck up as collateral. No, it's worth more than 6. I don't want Dad's truck. I want you to stop turning family objects into cash every time your plan has a hole. He looked toward the block plane. I fixed the split top, he said. I'm glad. I know why it opened. I fastened the battens too tight. Didn't leave room for movement. You figured that out, yes. There was pride in his voice, but no performance this time. I'm learning, he said. I know. Does that count for anything? It counts as learning, not forgiveness, not yet. He stood there another moment, then pushed the box of chisels toward me. No strings, he said. I believed he wanted that to be true. He left without the loan. The next morning, Mom picked up his sanding discs anyway. Mom explained the sanding discs before I asked. They were already paid for, she said over the phone. If I didn't get them, the store was going to put them back. That's generally what stores do, and I needed groceries. From the industrial supply house? It's near the Good Market. It's 6 miles past the Good Market. I like to drive. There was no useful response to that. For the next 4 days, Ryan did not call me. He sent no photographs, no measurements, no questions disguised as updates. The silence should have been peaceful. Instead, I caught myself checking my phone whenever it vibrated and feeling disappointed when it was a boiler alarm. At Wesley's on Saturday, I sharpened Dad's bench chisels and paid another $100 toward the carving tools. Wesley had glued up a small basswood panel and drawn 3 leaves across it in pencil. That for me? I asked. For the dog. He's developing a creative practice. The dog slept beneath the bench with his chin on my boot. I don't carve leaves, then carve something else. I came to sharpen. You sharpened. I could sharpen them more. You could turn them into mirrors. Still won't make anything. He slid the panel toward me. The first cut was hesitant. I had not used a gouge in almost 2 years, and Dad's chisels were for joinery, not carving. Wesley loaned me a shallow gouge and stood far enough away to make clear he was not teaching unless asked. I carved one leaf. It looked like a feather dropped by a sick bird. Wesley rotated the panel. Second one. You're not going to tell me what I did wrong? You know what you did wrong. He sounded enough like Dad that my throat tightened. The second leaf was better. The third had a clean central vein and edges that lifted from the background without looking cut out. My phone buzzed. I wiped my hand before checking it. The message was from Mom. Can you come over? Not about the tables. I showed Wesley. Not about the tables means it's about the tables, he said. It might not. Your family raised an optimist. When I called, Mom answered in a whisper. The refrigerator keeps going off. Check the breaker. We did. It trips again when Ryan turns on the big vacuum. Dust collector. Whatever it is. He says the refrigerator isn't on the same circuit. The kitchen shouldn't be on the workshop circuit. Shouldn't be and isn't are apparently different things. Tell him to stop running the dust collector until an electrician looks at it. I did. And he says he has to finish sanding today. Then call an electrician. I called too. Nobody can come until Monday. Leave the breaker off and move the refrigerator to another circuit. How? With a heavy extension cord temporarily. We only have the orange one. Ryan says he needs it. There it was. I looked at the half-carved panel. Wesley had resumed working on the heron as if he could not hear my side of the call. I'll come for the refrigerator, I said, not the workshop. I know. When I reached Mom's house, the dining room had become a lumber annex. 3 tabletops rested across padded sawhorses. Another leaned upright against the wall where Mom's china cabinet used to stand. The cabinet had been pushed into the living room, blocking half the front window. Plastic sheeting hung between the kitchen and dining room. The walnut dust had ignored it and settled across the fruit bowl, the toaster, and a framed photograph of Mom and Dad in Atlantic City. Mom met me with a cooler. I moved the milk. Good. And the chicken. Good. The freezer is still cold. Keep it closed. She followed me downstairs to the electrical panel. 2 breakers were warm. I turned off the workshop circuit and found the refrigerator receptacle sharing a junction it should not have shared. Dad wired this? I asked. He had somebody help. Who? Ryan. That explains nothing. We ran the refrigerator temporarily from an outlet on the opposite kitchen wall using the orange extension cord. The voltage drop was acceptable. The cord crossed the doorway, so I taped it down and made Mom promise not to cover it with a rug. Ryan appeared while I was checking the plug. He wore a respirator around his neck and had walnut dust in his eyebrows. I need that cord. The refrigerator needs it. I've got 6 tops to sand. You have a circuit problem. I have an electrician coming Monday. Then hand sand. He looked at me as if I'd suggested finishing them with a toothbrush. The random orbit sanders draw less than the dust collector, he said. I can run one at a time and use a shop vac. Not on that circuit. I've been running it all week. And now the breaker trips. Because the refrigerator compressor kicks on. Which is what refrigerators do. Mom stood between us holding a bag of frozen peas. I don't want the food to spoil. It won't, I said. Ryan pointed toward the workshop. You can't just shut down production. I didn't. The breaker did. I'm 3 days behind. That's not an electrical category. His eyes were bloodshot. There was a raw spot at the bridge of his nose from the respirator. He looked bad enough that I lowered my voice. When did you sleep? Thursday. It's Saturday. I took a nap. Where? He nodded toward the living room. A pillow and blanket were wedged between the coffee table and Mom's displaced china cabinet. Mom lifted the frozen peas. He won't go home. I don't have time to drive back and forth. You shouldn't be using power tools on 2 hours of sleep, I said. Are you concerned now? I was concerned before, and you called it sabotage. He looked toward the dining room. Come see. No, not to fix anything. I want to show you. Mom set the peas in the cooler. They're beautiful. I should have left after securing the refrigerator. Instead, I followed him into the dining room. 4 completed tops lay beneath moving blankets. Ryan pulled back the first blanket with the solemnity of unveiling a monument. The walnut had been arranged carefully, lighter boards centered between dark ones. The glue joints were tight. He had softened the edges less than on the sample. I ran my eyes along the surface without touching it. You did the layout? Yes. It's good. Ryan blinked. Praise had become so rare between us that neither of us knew how to hold it. I built a flattening sled, he said. Took forever, but the router marks sand out. He showed me the underside. The battens had elongated screw holes this time, allowing the top to move. You learned. I told you I was learning. He smiled, and for a second I saw the boy who used to bring Dad crooked pieces of scrap and announce they were boats. Dad always asked where the boat was going. Then I noticed the glossy patch near one corner. Is that still wet? The final coat went on last night. What finish did you use? Ryan's smile disappeared. Does it matter? You asked me to see. He pressed a knuckle lightly against the patch. It left a dull print that slowly filled. It's humid, he said. The plastic is trapping moisture. I moved them inside because of dust. Did the manufacturer give you a recoat time? 4 to 6 hours. In what conditions? He reached for the can on the floor and turned it until the label faced him. Mom came close. Can you fix that? Ryan snapped. Stop asking her to fix everything. Mom recoiled. He closed his eyes. Sorry, I'm sorry. The apology sounded exhausted rather than strategic. How many coats? I asked. 3. How far apart? 4 hours. I did not need to tell him. He was already reading the small print. At 70 degrees and 50% humidity, he said. The dining room was 78 degrees and humid enough that Mom's salt shaker clogged every August. Ryan rubbed his face. A dusty streak crossed his cheek. The finish rep said this product was fast. It is, under the right conditions. Can I strip it? You can do anything if you have enough time. I don't. I stepped back from the table. When does Tess inspect? Tuesday morning. How many are complete? 4 tops, 3 bases. The milestone is 6 tables? Yes. Mom looked from him to me. That's only 2 more. Ryan laughed once, then pressed both hands against the edge of the table. Mom, please. She went into the kitchen. He kept his head down. I hired 2 guys through a temp service, he said. One lasted half a day. The other knows sanding but can't read a cut list. The CNC shop pushed the logos to next week. I spent the labor money on the replacement walnut. The progress payment doesn't release until Tess accepts the first 6. What are you asking me? Nothing. Ryan. I said nothing. He lifted his head. His eyes were wet, though whether from exhaustion, dust, or something else, I could not tell. I brought the chisels back with no strings, he said. I'm allowed to tell you things without it being a trap. Okay, I need to finish 6 tables. I heard you, and I don't know if I can. That was new. Ryan had admitted mistakes before, usually after rearranging them into bad luck. He had never admitted incapacity while there was still time for somebody to judge him. I looked at the 4 walnut tops. They were better than I wanted them to be, and not good enough to pass inspection. Call Tess, I said. Tell her now. No, ask for more time. If I ask before the first milestone, they'll think I can't handle the order. You can't handle the order. His mouth hardened. I can if I get through Tuesday. That's not the same thing. It's exactly the same thing in business. No, it's how you turn Tuesday's problem into next month's disaster. He pulled the moving blanket back over the table. Thanks for looking. I left him in the dining room. Mom was standing at the kitchen counter, wiping walnut dust from the framed Atlantic City photograph. She'd already cleaned it once. I could see the damp paper towel beside her. He yelled at me, she said. He's tired. So are you sometimes. I waited. You don't yell at me like that, she said. I thought of a dozen answers, most of them cruel enough to be true. You don't ask him to be patient. I said. You ask me. She looked toward the dining room. I gathered my tape and tools. At 1 a.m, Ryan called. I answered because nobody calls at 1 a.m. with good news. The finish is worse, he said. His voice sounded very far away. It's wrinkling. Call the manufacturer's technical line. They open at 8, then call at 8. Tess comes at 9. I sat up in bed. In the background, I heard sandpaper scraping wood by hand. Mom says you know how to strip it without staining the grain. Mom doesn't know what I know. She said Dad taught you. Go to sleep, Ryan. I can't. You can't safely run tools like this. I'm not asking you to run tools. You're asking me to come over. He was quiet. Then he said, I only have 3 tables, not 4. One of the finished tops had become unsalvageable. The first 6 are due in 8 hours, he said. I looked through my dark apartment at Dad's mallet on the oak chest. Then you need to tell Tess the truth. I ended the call. This time, he did not call back. At 7:13, Mom called and said the house smelled like paint thinner. Get outside, I told her. I opened a window. Get outside. Ryan says it's fine. Ryan has slept 3 hours since Thursday. Take your purse and go sit in the car. What about him? Put him on. He won't take the phone. I was already pulling on yesterday's pants. When I reached the house, Mom sat in her car wearing a bathrobe beneath her winter coat. She held a travel mug in both hands. I didn't know what shoes to put on, she said as I approached. She wore 1 garden clog and 1 running shoe. You could have matched by category. I was upset. Stay here. The chemical smell hit me at the back door. Ryan had moved the worst tabletop into the workshop and coated it with finish stripper. The garage door was open only 6 inches. A box fan faced the wrong direction, blowing fumes into the house. I unplugged the fan, turned it around, and raised the door. Ryan was scraping softened finish from the walnut with a plastic putty knife. He wore gloves, but no respirator. What are you doing here? He asked, keeping Mom's house from becoming a solvent chamber. I've got ventilation. You're blowing the fumes into the kitchen. He looked at the fan. I was trying to pull fresh air from inside, from beside the gas stove. His face went blank. Go outside, I said. I don't have time. You're lightheaded. I'm tired. Then walk a straight line. That's ridiculous. Walk to the door. He dropped the scraper into a metal tray. I called because I needed help and you hung up. You don't get to show up now and order me around. Mom called because she couldn't breathe. She's dramatic. She's sitting in the driveway wearing 2 different shoes. Ryan glanced toward the open door. That reached him. He stripped off the gloves and went outside. I moved the solvent tray away from the water heater, opened both workshop windows, and checked that every can was sealed. The tabletop was beyond saving before he applied the stripper. Now dark blotches had seeped into the end grain where the finish had wrinkled. Ryan came back wearing Dad's old respirator. Can I stay if I use this? It needs new cartridges. I don't have new cartridges. Then it's decoration. He tore it off. What do you want me to do? Ventilate the room and tell Tess you're not ready. She'll be here in an hour. You knew that at 1. I thought I could fix the 4th top. You still needed 2 more. The bases are done. That isn't 6 tables. I know how numbers work. Your production timeline suggested otherwise. He hit Dad's bench with the heel of his hand. Would you stop? The sound cracked through the workshop. Mom appeared in the doorway, still in her coat. Don't hit your father's bench. Ryan stared at her. She seemed surprised by her own sentence. I didn't hurt it, he said. It isn't yours. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Mom stepped into the workshop and pointed toward the house. You need to take those chemicals out of my dining room, too. They aren't in the dining room. The finish cans are. The lids are on. I want them out. Mom, Tess is coming. I know. I put on coffee. In 2 different shoes? She looked down as if seeing them for the first time. I'm changing. For once, Ryan did not argue. At 8:40, the workshop smelled less likely to explode. I had not touched a table. I had not scraped finish, adjusted a joint, or answered a woodworking question. I had moved chemicals, corrected ventilation, and made sure the kitchen stove was off. The distinction mattered to me even if nobody else could see it. I was carrying the box fan toward the doorway when a gray sedan pulled into the driveway. Tess stepped out with the older man from Mom's photograph. Both wore dark coats and expressions that suggested they had not expected a residential garage. Ryan wiped his hands on his pants. "You stayed," he said quietly. "I'm leaving. Just stand here." "No, you don't have to say anything. Then you don't need me." Tess saw me and paused. "Good morning, Laurel." "Good morning." The older man looked between us. "You're the daughter. I'm not part of the company." Ryan closed his eyes. Tess nodded once. "Understood. I came because of a ventilation problem in the house." "That's not relevant," Ryan said. "It is if you plan to finish furniture here," Tess replied. He straightened. "The finishing setup is temporary. I have a dedicated area planned." The older man walked toward the 3 assembled tables. Ryan followed him, shifting instantly into his presentation voice. "These are from the production stock, all kiln-dried walnut. We revised the edge profile slightly based on your feedback. The finish is the approved warm medium tone, with a shellac barrier coat." Tess touched the first top, then crouched to inspect the base. "Where are the other 3? "We had a supplier issue." "Ryan." He looked at her. "You told me yesterday that all 6 were in finishing. The components are. I made the decision not to present work that hadn't reached our quality standard. It was a good sentence. Dad could have used it." The older man pressed one corner of the table. It held steady. "These 3 are solid," he said. Pride moved across Ryan's face. Tess did not smile. "Our agreement releases the first progress payment upon acceptance of 6 completed units. I understand. Do you? I can complete the remaining 3 by Friday. Your full delivery is due in 5 weeks. At the rate you've demonstrated, that isn't realistic. The first milestone included setup time, jigs, templates, supplier coordination. Production accelerates from here." She glanced at the damaged top beneath the plastic sheet. "What happened to that one?" "Finish incompatibility. Corrected process now." "Was it from the replacement stock?" "Yes." The older man studied the label on an open finish can. Ryan moved it aside too late. Tess looked toward me, not for an answer, just an acknowledgement that I was witnessing the same room. I picked up my bag. "Good luck," I told Ryan. He stared at me as I walked out. Mom followed me to the driveway after Tess and the older man left. I had waited in my car because she had texted, "Please don't go yet." Ryan stayed inside the workshop. They gave him until Friday, Mom said. "For 6? For 6 completed tables and a revised schedule. No payment until then. That's more time than they had to give. He says he can do it. Maybe he can." "You don't believe that." "I believe he can finish 6 tables. I don't believe 6 tables prove he can finish the whole order." Mom wrapped her coat tighter. She had changed into matching shoes, but kept the bathrobe. "He wants to hire someone experienced. That would help. He can't pay anyone until Friday. I already told him no, I didn't ask. You were about to." She looked toward the workshop. "He says if you'd helped yesterday, he would have had 6. He had wet lumber, no labor budget, an overloaded circuit, and finish he didn't test under actual conditions. But if you had helped, yes. If I gave him free labor and 40 years of Dad's knowledge, his business would work better. You make it sound ugly. It is ugly. He returned your chisels. That was right. He sold his guitar. That was his choice. You've always wanted him to be responsible. Now every responsible thing he does is just something he should have done. Because it is. How is he supposed to earn forgiveness if nothing counts? It counts. It doesn't buy me." Mom flinched. I lowered my voice. "He still thinks every decent thing he does earns access to me. You do too. That's not fair." "What would be fair? 1 returned chisel equals an hour of sanding? The Martin gets him a tabletop? Stop. You're the one turning this into a transaction. I am trying to save my son, and you keep spending your daughter." Mom's face went still. The workshop door opened. Ryan stood there with both hands braced against the frame. "Go home, Mom," he said. "This is my home. You know what I mean?" She turned on him. "No, I don't. Apparently nobody says what they mean around here." He looked startled. Mom walked past him into the house and shut the back door hard enough to shake the window. Ryan came down the driveway. "Happy?" he asked. "No. You got her to turn on me. Mom told you to move chemicals out of her dining room. That isn't turning on you. You've been waiting for this. For matching shoes? For me to screw up. You sold the tools before you had a production plan. I had a plan. You had my name written beside all the hard parts. You could have helped. And there it is." He rubbed his palms against his thighs. The skin around his fingernails was split and stained brown. "I'm not asking anymore," he said. "Good. I'll get 6 done by Friday. I hope you do. And when I do, don't pretend you supported me. I won't." His eyes narrowed, but the anger did not arrive. He just looked tired. Dad used to say you could make a person feel stupid without raising your voice. Dad used to make people feel stupid while shouting across a lumber rack. He was proud of you for it? No. He was proud I could tell when he was wrong. Ryan looked back at the workshop. Was he proud of me? The question was so naked that I almost looked away. Yes. For what? For being able to walk into a room and make everyone want the same thing for 5 minutes. That's not woodworking. No. He left that to you. He left you his watch and truck. I know what he left me. The bitterness in his voice made the truck and watch sound like consolation prizes. Until then, I had not considered that Ryan might have heard Dad's decision as a verdict, not just a distribution. "He wanted you in the shop," I said. "He wanted me to be you in the shop. That's not true. You weren't there when it was just us." Neither of us moved. This was the kind of sentence families built whole alternative histories around. I wanted to ask what Dad had said. I also knew Ryan well enough to understand that right then, any answer would become a tool. "Finish your 6 tables," I said. He laughed softly. "Right, back to work." By Friday morning, he had 6. He sent me a photograph at 6:30. The tables stood in 2 rows inside the workshop, finished and assembled, each bearing the carved company logo requested by the client. The color looked consistent. The bases looked square. His message said, "I did it." I typed, "They look good." Before I could send it, another photograph arrived, a close-up of the 6th tabletop. A thin crack ran from one fastener nearly 8 inches along the grain. Then my phone rang. I answered on the 3rd ring. "How bad?" I asked. Ryan exhaled. "You saw it. Is the crack moving?" I marked the end. "It hasn't moved in 20 minutes. That doesn't mean it stopped." "I know. What caused it?" "The fastener." I elongated the hole, but I tightened the washer too much. "Then you know what happened." "I know what happened. I don't know what to do now." There was no answer that made the table ready by 9. He could cut out the damaged section and lose width. He could replace the top and lose days. He could fill the crack and hope nobody looked closely, which would turn a production failure into dishonesty. "You present 5, I said. "The milestone is 6. You have 5. "I have 6 tables. 1 has a crack. Then you have 5. He made a sound like he had covered the phone with his hand. When he came back, his voice was lower. "If I butterfly the crack, it becomes a feature. In 2 hours, I can route it. By hand, I made a template. The finish won't cure before Tess gets there. I can use shellac. Over fresh epoxy, I have 5-minute epoxy." "Ryan, what? You're asking me to bless a bad idea. I'm asking if it can work. It can conceal the crack long enough for somebody to sign a form." The silence told me that was what he wanted. I closed my eyes. "Don't do that. If they release the progress payment, I can replace the whole top before delivery. Then tell Tess that. She won't release the payment. Because you didn't complete the milestone. I completed 98% of it. You completed 5 tables out of an order for 18 tables and 6 credenzas. 6 tables. 5. He breathed hard into the phone. "I knew you'd do this. Count accurately? Make the worst moment worse. I told you to ask for time 4 days ago, and I told you I couldn't. No, you told me you didn't want to. He hung up. I went to work. At 8:50, Mom texted, "Tess is here." At 9:11, "They're looking." At 9:34, "Please call." I did not. At 10:02, my phone rang from Ryan's number. I let it stop. It rang again from Mom's. Denise watched me ignore it. "You need me to hide that?" she asked. "No, you sure?" "No." The phone rang a third time. I answered. Mom was crying quietly, which frightened me more than if she had been loud. "They canceled," she said. I sat down at my desk. "The whole order? They said they've lost confidence in the schedule." "What happened?" He tried to show the cracked one. "Did he tell them?" He put a brass bow tie thing across it. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Butterfly. It looked nice. I'm sure it did. But the wood was still sticky around it. The man with Tess touched it. 5-minute epoxy was never 5 minutes when spread thick, and shellac over uncured epoxy had probably trapped solvent beneath the surface. "What else?" I asked. One of the other tables wobbled. "Which one?" "I don't know, Laurel." "A table." He kept tightening something underneath. Tess asked to see the credenzas, and Ryan said they were in fabrication. They were panels leaning against a wall. What did Tess say? That the firm has an opening date and can't risk waiting. They'll pay for the 3 tables they accepted Tuesday, but they want the rest of the deposit returned. Where is Ryan? In the workshop. Is he alone? I'm in the kitchen. That wasn't my question. He told me to leave him alone, then leave him alone. Mom's crying changed, sharper now. "How can you say that?" "Because he's ashamed and you can't remove it for him. You could come." "No. He needs his sister. He needed a cabinet maker. He sold her tools." The sentence came out colder than I intended. Mom stopped crying. "I shouldn't have let him," she said. It was the first time she had said it without a qualification. I leaned back in the chair. "No," I said. "You shouldn't have." "What do I do?" "Make sure he isn't using power tools. Then let him sit." "I don't know how to do that." "Yes, you do. You just don't know how to do it without making me responsible, too." We stayed on the phone without speaking. Finally, Mom said, "He isn't running anything. I can hear him moving boards." "Okay. Will you come after work?" I looked through the glass wall of my office. Miguel rolled a cart past, saw me, and lifted one hand. Somewhere above us, an air handler changed speed. "I'll come after work," I said. Mom met me in the kitchen at 5:30. The plastic sheeting had been taken down. She had wiped the counters, but a dull layer of dust still coated the tops of the cabinets. "There's coffee," she said. "No, thank you. I made a fresh pot. I'm not staying long." She nodded instead of arguing. The 3 accepted tables were gone. Tess's team had arranged pickup before leaving. The other 3 stood in the workshop under the harsh, fluorescent lights. Ryan sat on Dad's bench with the cracked top propped against the wall behind him. The brass butterfly was beautifully cut. He had centered it across the split and oriented the grain for contrast. Dad would have praised the fit before telling him he'd fixed the wrong problem. Ryan looked at me. "Come to see the body?" "I came because Mom asked." "Of course you did." His phone lay on the bench beside him. The screen showed an email with the subject "Contract Termination and Deposit Reconciliation." "How much do you have to return?" I asked. "More than I have." "After they pay for the 3 tables?" "Yes." "What's left?" He gestured around the workshop. "Walnut, equipment, a cargo van that goes back tomorrow, 600 custom fasteners, enough sandpaper to erase the house." Mom came to the doorway. "The unused materials can be returned," she said. "Custom milled walnut can't be returned, Mom. You could sell it. For half what I paid. Half is something." Ryan laughed. "That should be our family motto." Mom's face tightened. "Don't speak to me like that." He stared at her. "Now? What does that mean? It means you let me turn your house into a factory because you thought the money was coming. Now the money isn't coming, and suddenly you've discovered boundaries. That isn't fair. Nothing's fair today. I leaned against the tool cabinet. What did Tess give you? 10 business days to return the balance. And if you can't, I'll make a payment arrangement. Good. He looked at me with open hatred. You sound like this is a parking ticket. What do you want me to sound like? Sorry. I am sorry. No, you're relieved. I'm not. You were right. That has to feel good. It feels expensive. For you? Yes, Ryan. For me. You sold my tools, spent my savings making me buy pieces of them back, cost me a workshop bay, used my work to win a contract, and spent 6 weeks trying to make your deadline the test of whether I loved you. I didn't want this. You didn't do anything to stop it. I told you to stop before you cut the wet lumber. I told you to ask for more time. I told you to present 5 instead of hiding a crack. You could have shown me. Shown you what? How to do it. All of it? Enough. For 6 tables? To get the payment. And then what? I show you enough for the next 6? I finish the credenzas when you run out of time? I correct every mistake because the client has an opening date? His voice rose. Maybe. Yes. For one order, maybe you help your brother. There it is. What? The plan. He stood. Mom remained in the doorway, very still. You sold the tools because you assumed my hands came with them, I said. You didn't forget to ask. You skipped asking because you were counting on the same thing everyone in this family counts on, that I'll be angry, but I'll show up. Ryan's face reddened. You always show up. That isn't consent. You think Dad asked every time? He called, You came. That was you two. No, that was all of us. Fine, all of us. You liked being needed until somebody needed you in a way you didn't control. The accusation landed because a piece of it was true. I had been proud of being the person who knew where the breaker was, how to calm Mom, which medication Dad had taken, why Ryan's truck made that noise. Competence had given me a place in the family. I had complained about the weight while gripping it with both hands. I did like being needed, I said. That doesn't make what you did okay. You could have saved the order. Maybe. Mom looked at me. I kept my eyes on Ryan. And then you would have learned that selling my inheritance was a good business decision. His anger faltered. You would have gotten paid, I continued. Mom would have said everything worked out. You would have returned some tools and called us even. And the next time you needed something, you would do it again. I wouldn't. You already did it again every time you put my name on a schedule I never agreed to. Ryan looked at the floor. Mom spoke from the doorway. You told me she had agreed. He did not answer. Ryan. I said she would. You said she had. I knew she'd be mad. That isn't the same thing. I thought she'd get over it. Mom's voice became quiet, because she always does. Ryan looked up at her. For once, Mom did not rescue either of us from the silence. She stepped into the workshop and touched the cracked tabletop. You need to get the chemicals and rented equipment out of the house, she said. The lumber can stay until you arrange something. The dining room gets cleared tonight. Mom, no. It was not a dramatic word. She sounded tired. Then she looked at Dad's bench. And this belongs to Laurel. Ryan's eyes shifted to me. Mom continued. She can take it whenever she wants. She doesn't need my permission, and she doesn't need yours. I ran my fingers along the cabinet edge beside me. Ryan sat back down. After a while, he said, I can sell the truck. Mom inhaled sharply. Dad's truck. The one Ryan had polished until the chrome shone. The one in every picture of him on the business site before the site came down. It should cover most of the deposit, he said. Mom's first instinct moved across her face. Save the truck. Find another way. Ask Laurel. She closed her mouth before the words came out. Ryan nodded once, as if she had said them anyway. I'll list it tonight, he said. The truck left another clean rectangle, this time in the driveway. Mom called me while the buyer was still there. I could hear the engine idling behind her and a man asking Ryan whether the air conditioner worked. It always worked for your father, Mom said. Don't tell the buyer that. Why? Because Dad's been dead almost a year. The engine revved. "Oh," she said. "Well, it blows cold." "Good." "Ryan looks terrible." I sat on the edge of my bed, pulling on a sock. "He's selling something he loves." "You make it sound like that's good. It's necessary. That doesn't make it good." I offered to lend him the rest. My hand stopped. "He said no," Mom added quickly. "He said he'd already borrowed too much from the family." That sounded rehearsed enough that Ryan had probably repeated it to himself before saying it aloud. Outside Mom's phone, a car door slammed. "He's taking the plates off," she whispered. "You don't have to narrate. I don't know what else to do. Stand with him. He doesn't want me to." "Then stand nearby." The truck sold for enough to repay most of the deposit balance. Ryan returned the rented equipment, sold the new planer and sanders at a loss, and listed the remaining walnut by the board foot. Abernathy Rowan paid for the 3 accepted tables. The money still came up short. Ryan arranged payments for the rest. I knew because he sent me a photograph of the agreement with every dollar amount visible this time. No thumb over the total. His message said, "They accepted this." I replied, "Good." He did not ask me to praise him. The dining room reappeared slowly. Mom sent photographs as each tabletop left, usually accompanied by commentary about the buyers. The man from Brighton tried to bargain after he arrived. Ryan said no. A woman bought 2 tops for a restaurant bar. Very nice coat. The last one is gone. I found walnut dust in the sugar bowl. Ryan cleared the workshop without asking me to lift anything. When the cargo van went back, he borrowed a dolly from the hardware store and moved the equipment himself. Mom tried to help with a table base, and he told her to put it down before she hurt her back. She put it down. That might have been the most surprising event of the month. He took a night shift at a warehouse that distributed flooring and cabinet hardware. The work ran from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning, with extra shifts available on weekends. It was not a business. It did not have a logo. Nobody used Dad's photograph to advertise it. Mom called it temporary. Ryan called it work. I did not call it anything. At the hospital, the pharmacy ventilation complaint turned into a replacement project. The fan motor had been failing in small, polite increments that the monitoring system treated as normal. I built a schedule, coordinated the shutdown, and stood on the roof with Miguel while the crane lifted the new unit into place. "You ever take a day off?" he asked. "I took Saturday. You went to the wood shop." "That counts. That's a second location of work. It has a dog." "Fine. Vacation." The new motor settled into its housing. When Miguel energized it, the fan started with a clean, rising hum. I listened for vibration. "You know," he said, "most people wait for the computer to tell them it's running." The computer didn't hear the old bearing. Computers have boundaries. Don't start. He laughed and handed me the inspection sheet. That evening, Cal called. "I've got news on the drill press," he said. "My drill press?" "The buyer's willing to sell." I held the phone tighter. "For how much?" Cal named a price slightly below what he had listed it for, but still more than I could justify. "I can't do that right now. Wasn't asking if you could." "What were you asking?" "Whether you want me to tell him no." I looked around my apartment. Dad's chisels stood in a temporary rack on the oak chest. The mallets sat beside them. The block plane occupied the place where normal people might keep a lamp. "Tell him I need a week. He'll give you 3 days. Then tell him no." "You sure?" "No." "Good answer." Cal gave me until the following afternoon. At 11 the next morning, he called again. "Paid," he said. "What?" "Drill press is paid for." "By who?" "You know who." I closed my office door. "How?" "Cash. Your brother came in after his shift. He worked last night. He looked like it." "I didn't ask him to do that." "Nope. Can you store it?" "For a little while." "How long is a little while?" "Until I start charging you rent or trip over it, whichever comes first." After work, I drove to Mom's. Ryan was asleep on the couch with one boot still on. His warehouse badge was clipped to his shirt. Mom stood in the kitchen making a meatloaf large enough to feed a construction crew. "He got home at 3, she said. "Why is he here?" "His apartment is farther from the warehouse. I told him he could sleep here on weekends. Does he know I'm here? He's unconscious, Laurel. That has never stopped you from arranging a conversation. She pressed the meatloaf mixture into the pan harder than necessary. I'm trying. I know. That was the problem with change. It did not make people new. It made them awkward versions of themselves, bumping into habits they had not learned to walk around. Ryan woke when the oven door closed. He sat up, looked at me, and rubbed his face. A crease from the couch pillow ran across his cheek. Cal called, I said. Okay, you bought the drill press. You wanted it. That isn't the same as asking you to buy it. He leaned forward and worked the remaining boot off. I sold it. I'm buying it back. You still owe the architecture firm. Payment comes out of my regular hours. Overtime is for tools. He said it like a rule he had made for himself. You need sleep. I'm getting some. On Mom's couch. It's a very good couch. Mom glanced over her shoulder, pleased despite herself. I sat in the armchair across from him. Thank you. Ryan picked at a loose thread on his sock. You don't have to thank me. I do when someone does something for me. I did it because I owed you. Both can be true. He nodded. I waited for him to ask whether this counted toward forgiveness. He did not. Cal can keep it for now, I said. Why? I don't have anywhere to put it. What about Broad Street? I looked at him. Mom told me about the bay, he said. The one you lost. Mom suddenly became absorbed in shaping the meatloaf. I told her not to tell you, I said. She was upset. She tells you my private information when she's upset? Ryan glanced toward the kitchen. She tells everybody everything when she's upset. That is not true, Mom said. You told Aunt Carol about my colonoscopy. You had a polyp. It was benign. That's why I told her not to worry. Ryan looked at me. See? I laughed before I could stop myself. He smiled, then seemed to remember we were not there yet. There'll be another bay, he said. Maybe. If there is, I'll help move the bench. You don't have to. I know. The answer sat in the room, simple and unfamiliar. Mom served meatloaf without asking if I was staying. She set 3 plates on the table and left mine empty until I said, I can eat. Then she filled it. Ryan left for the warehouse at 5:30. Mom packed 2 meatloaf sandwiches for his break and made him carry his own container. After he left, she washed dishes while I dried. Your father's watch is in the upstairs dresser, she said. I stopped wiping a plate. Why? Ryan gave it to me before he sold the truck. He was afraid he'd sell that too if he got desperate. That was smart. He said it's still his. I'm only keeping it. Also smart. Mom rinsed a fork. I wanted to offer it to you. Why? To make things even. A watch doesn't make things even. I know. Do you? She set the fork in the rack. I'm starting to. We finished the dishes. At the door, Mom handed me an envelope. Inside was the amount I had paid Cal for the block plane and oak chest. I'm not taking this. It's mine. That doesn't matter. It came from my savings, not Ryan's business. That matters even less. She held the envelope out. I let him sell them. Yes, I should pay. You should help him buy back what he sold. Don't hand me money so you can feel finished. Her face tightened. I'm not trying to feel finished. What are you trying to feel? She lowered the envelope. I don't know, she said. It was the most honest answer she had given me. I called you greedy because I knew what he did was wrong, she said. If you were greedy, then I didn't have to be the mother who let one child take from the other. I leaned against the door frame. You let him because you thought I would stay. Yes. The word was barely audible. And because seeing me in the workshop hurt. Yes. And because his excitement was easier than my grief. Her eyes filled. Yes. There was no defense attached. No mention of Dad wanting the tools used. No list of Ryan's good qualities. Just, yes. I don't know what to do with that, I said. You don't have to do anything. Another new sentence. Mom put the envelope into her own purse. Do you want the bench now? She asked. I don't have a place. When you do, you can come get it. You don't have to arrange it through me. It's in your house. It's yours." I nodded. On my way home, Naomi called from Broad Street Makers. "We have another bay," she said, "smaller than the last one. 7 by 9, back wall, no window. How long do I have?" "Deposit by Friday." I looked at my bank balance at the next red light. Between 2 paychecks, fewer family emergencies, and the overtime I had worked during the ventilation project, I had enough. Barely. "I'll take it." Naomi laughed. "You haven't seen it." "I'll take it." I signed the agreement Thursday afternoon. The bay was a concrete rectangle with a lockable steel cabinet and one outlet. The wall showed ghost marks from someone else's shelves. Fluorescent light flattened everything beneath it. It was smaller than Dad's workshop, smaller than Ryan's production plan, smaller than the space the tools occupied in my memory. I stood in the center and listened to the shared dust collector start in the next room. Then I put my name on the door. The photograph I sent Ryan showed only the steel door and the strip of masking tape with Laurel Mercer written across it. He replied during his warehouse break, "Good name for a company." I wrote, "It isn't a company." Even better. The following Saturday, he arrived at Mom's before I did. Dad's bench drawers had been emptied onto a folding table, and Ryan was removing the vise with a socket wrench. He had put a moving blanket beneath it so the cast iron would not hit the floor. "You started without me," I said. "I started loosening bolts. I didn't move anything." Mom appeared from the house carrying 3 coffees in a cardboard tray. "I didn't know what you wanted, so I got yours black and brought cream separately. Thank you." She handed Ryan his cup. "Yours has too much sugar. That's how I like it." "I know. I'm judging, not asking." He smiled. Miguel and Denise arrived 10 minutes later. Denise walked into the workshop, looked at Dad's bench, and turned to me. "This is the little table you needed help moving?" I said workbench. "You left out built from sections of railroad bridge." Dad had laminated the top from hard maple until it was nearly 4 inches thick. The base was oak, joined with drawboard mortise and tenons because he believed screws were evidence of moral decline. "We can take the top off," Ryan said. "No," I said. Dad glued the locating blocks after the last move. "How'd he get it in here?" "He built it here." "That seems short-sighted. He planned to die in this house." Mom looked down at her coffee. Ryan closed his eyes. "Sorry." "It was true," she said. "He also planned to live to 90. We used 2 furniture dollies, lifting one end at a time. Ryan waited for my count before every movement. It should not have been noticeable. It was. 1, 2, 3. The bench rose. "Stop," I said. Everybody stopped. I repositioned the blanket beneath one leg. "Okay, again." Nobody sighed. Nobody told me it was fine where it was. When we rolled the bench into the sunlight, the workshop looked wrong. The clean rectangle beneath it was darker than the rest of the floor, protected from decades of dust and spilled finish. The empty outlines had become a map of what was missing: table saw, planer, lathe, drill press, clamp rack, hand tool cabinet. Mom stood inside that map. "I'll repaint," she said. "You don't have to. I might want a car in here again." Ryan looked at her. "It's a workshop. It's my garage." I waited for the argument. Ryan nodded. "Yeah, it is." At Broad Street, the bench fit through the double doors with a 1/4 inch to spare. We maneuvered it into my bay and set it against the back wall. "Where do you want the vise?" Ryan asked. I pointed to the floor beside the steel cabinet. "There for now." He lowered it carefully. Miguel plugged in the shared dust hose and announced that the airflow was not terrible. Denise wrote, "Not terrible" on a scrap of tape and stuck it above my door. Mom unpacked sandwiches but did not call anyone to eat. She waited until we stopped on our own. Ryan stood in the middle of the bay, turning slowly. "It's small," he said. "It's mine." "I know." He touched the edge of Dad's bench, then pulled his hand away. "I thought the tools meant he picked you," he said. The others had gone to the break room. Mom was rearranging napkins where she could hear us without looking like she was listening. "Picked me for what?" I asked. "To be the one who was like him. You hated woodworking. I hated being bad at it. You were bad because you never stayed long enough to improve. I know that now." He looked at the vise on the floor. When Dad said the tools should go to the person who knew what they were, everybody laughed at the joke about towing the building. I laughed too. But what I heard was that he knew what I was. What? Not the person. I leaned against the bench. He gave you the truck. I could drive when I was 16. He gave you Grandpa's watch. It tells time. So do phones. Ryan laughed softly. Exactly. You could have told me. I could have done a lot of things. He rubbed the calluses beginning to form across his palms. Warehouse calluses now, not woodworking ones. I thought if Mercer's son worked, then Dad would have been wrong about me. Then I used your work to prove it. That isn't why he gave me the tools. I know. Do you? He considered before answering. He gave them to the person who would use them. Yes, and I sold them because I wanted the result without being that person. Mom had stopped moving napkins. Ryan looked at me. I'm sorry. It was the first apology he had given me without a percentage, deadline, or request attached. I believe you, I said. Does that mean no? He nodded before I finished. Okay. I did not forgive him that day. He did not ask again. Cal delivered the drill press the following week. Its table had acquired a long scratch, and somebody had replaced the chuck key with the wrong size, but the motor ran smoothly. Ryan paid Cal's delivery charge before I could object. The table saw stayed in Tennessee. The planer buyer never returned another call. The local lathe owner eventually told Cal he planned to restore it and would contact me if he ever sold. Some clamps appeared online months later, but there was no way to prove they were Dad's. They were ordinary clamps, which was part of what made losing them so strange. Grief did not make objects more identifiable. Ryan kept working nights. Every 2 weeks, he sent me a payment labeled tools. The amounts were not impressive. Neither was the warehouse. That made them mean more. I paid Wesley the balance on the carving set myself. He counted the money, tucked it into an envelope, and handed me Dad's canvas roll. Your brother offered to cover this, he said. When? Last week. What did you tell him? That you were already paying. Thank you. I also told him I charge double for family interference. You don't. He doesn't know that. I rolled out the gouges on my new bench. The cracked fishtail handle still had Dad's fishing line repair. Linen thread, I said. Wesley grunted. Inherited delusion. He helped me select hard maple for a new work table. Dad's bench was too tall for me. He had been 6'2" and built it for his own back, his own reach, his own habits. For years, I had stood on a rubber mat and told myself 1.5 inches did not matter. It mattered. I designed the new table 34 inches high with a split top, a tool well, and legs set far enough back that I would not bang my knees. I used shared machines for milling, Dad's recovered chisels for the mortises, and his block plane for the final fitting. The first tenon was too tight. I paired it, tested it, paired it again. Nobody was waiting. When it finally seated under 2 taps from Dad's applewood mallet, the sound traveled through the maple and into my hands. Mom asked to visit 3 times before I said yes. The first time, the table was still a stack of boards. The second time, I had glue drying and did not want company. The third time, I was fitting the vise. Can I come Saturday? She texted. I wrote, 2:00. She arrived at 1:58 and waited outside my bay. The door was open. You can come in, I said. I didn't want to assume. I noticed. She carried a small paper bag. Coffee. I asked for black. That's right. I know. The work table stood in the center of the bay, assembled but unfinished. Dad's vise was mounted on the left end. I had cleaned the screw, replaced one worn washer, and left the jaws scarred. Mom walked around it slowly. This isn't his bench. No, it's lower. It fits me. She rested 2 fingers on the edge, then pulled them back. Can I? Yes. Her palm moved across the maple. Your father would have said this top was too clean. He would have set a coffee cup on it before the finish cured. then blame the finish. We laughed. Mom took the cup from the tray but kept holding it. I haven't apologized correctly. You apologized, I explained. That's usually your version. She accepted that. I'm sorry I let Ryan sell the tools, she said. I'm sorry I lied when I said I didn't know when it happened. I knew the pickup was that day. I left because I wanted it done without having to watch. I looked at the vice handle. I'm sorry I called you greedy, she continued. You were asking for your own things, and I made that ugly because I wanted you to give them up quietly. Her voice shook. She did not cry. And I'm sorry I made being strong the reason you were supposed to take more. The bay was quiet except for the dust collector in the next room. I can't go back to how it was, I said. I know. I won't manage Ryan for you. I know. I won't come every time you call. I'm trying to call differently. You are? Mom nodded. She placed her coffee on the steel cabinet instead of my clean tabletop. That counted too. Ryan arrived at 3, straight from the warehouse. I had invited him separately. He wore work boots and carried a long cardboard box. What's that? Mom asked. Not your business, he said, then caught himself. Sorry, it's a rail. Inside was Dad's clamp rail, the steel bar that had hung above the old workbench. 3 of the original clamps were attached. Where did you find it? I asked. Guy in Fairmont bought a mix lot. Cal tracked him down. He wanted to keep the wooden clamps, so I bought the rail in these 3. One clamp had Dad's initials burned into the handle. Another had blue paint on the jaw from the time I used it to repair a porch chair without padding the surface. The third was not ours. This one isn't Dad's, I said. Ryan examined it. How can you tell? He hated quick-release clamps with plastic triggers. Keep it anyway? I squeezed the trigger. It worked smoothly. Yeah. We mounted the rail together. Ryan held it against the wall while I checked level. Little left? He asked. Your left. My left is normal left, not when you're facing me. Mom sat on a stool, drinking coffee and saying nothing. When the rail was level, Ryan marked the holes, then handed me the drill. He did not pick it up himself. I drilled the anchors and fastened the rail. The 3 clamps hung above the new table with room for more between them. Ryan ran his hand over the maple top. This is good, he said. Thank you. Dad would have liked it. The sentence tightened something in me. Ryan noticed. I think he would have liked it. That's better. He nodded. Before they left, Mom asked if I was coming to dinner Sunday. Ryan watched the floor. Not this Sunday, I said. Another time? Ask me another time? I will. They walked out together. Mom waited for Ryan to open the passenger door instead of asking me to drive her home. I stayed in the bay. The last thing the table needed was a maker's mark. Dad had stamped T. Mercer beneath everything he built, usually somewhere only another woodworker would think to look. I turned the table over far enough to reach the underside of the front rail. Then I took a pencil and wrote my full name in block letters. Laurel Mercer. Not Mercer's son, not the Mercer tradition, not family work, just the name of the person who had made it. I set Dad's mallet on the top. It did not roll.